What's going on here? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Will Franklin. I'm the director of the North Coast SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. So that's Humboldt. That's Humboldt and Del Norte. Sweet. Okay. That's economic development hat. Prior, I was in the wine industry for many, many years. I started a wine business called Trinity River Vineyards. We grew it, we survived COVID, and we sold it. So there's definitely a theme going on here in Lake County. We've got some wine, and we've got economic development. And so now as a wine business advisor, I still keep up on wine industry news. And I'm flipping through my wine network posts, and I read about the Columbia Wine Gardens and Artisan Village, and I'm like, this is wine and economic development all in one. My two worlds collide. I have to call the person on the phone. She picks up the phone and she's so gracious. She talks to me for hours about her project. And so we have today a case study of what I'm calling a honeypot. And honeypots are sweet little hubs where the flies are attracted, or the bears, if you will, and they come in and they spend money at a maker's space or a farmer's market, and that's the honeypot. And you have a hive behind the scene making that honeypot a reality. And today, we're going to hear from the queen bee of the hive up in Kennewick. And we're like, what does Washington State have anything to do with this local region? But you'll see the similarities here and our worlds colliding. A woman who really cares about her community, who grew up there, who knows it, who builds partnerships, and guess what? She's building a wine village, so that's cool too, right on the waterfront. So without further ado, the queen bee, Amber Hanchet.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Will, for that introduction, and thank you to Will and Susan for inviting me to join you at your summit this week. The energy in this room is very exciting, and your collaborations seem very familiar to me. So Will is correct. I grew up in the Tri-Cities, and I'm going to share with you a couple projects from your friends to the north. And my role with the Port of Kennewick is Director of Real Estate. I've been there about 12 years, started out wearing dual hats, as most small organizations do, as Director of Operations and Real Estate. And as we have worked on some of our redevelopment projects throughout our district, we split my departments. So I focus mostly on real estate. And so these projects are very near and dear to my heart. Love my community just as you love yours, so I hope you enjoy a couple of projects that the Port of Kennewick has brought to you today. So we're going to do some hand motions with my slides. Where is the Port of Kennewick? It might be the first question. Well, we are located in eastern Washington. In Washington State, there are 75 port districts, and you may be familiar with our seaports of the Port of Seattle, the Port of Tacoma. Well, throughout our state, we have additional port districts. So we are located in the southeast corner of Washington State, Benton County, and it's really the Tri-Cities. So Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, and then we have a bedroom community called West Richland that is growing rapidly in population. So we've got quite the hub of different cities. The Port of Kennewick is started out, next slide please. We started out in 1915 as a 3 little square mile district, catering in the early 1900s to water traffic, so to the ferry traffic for goods and people, and then over the years we've changed. So in the 50s and 60s it was more development of heavy industrial. That was very popular, so we did a lot of heavy industrial. And then as we jump into the present time, we are more of an economic development organization. And we are located at the confluence of the Columbia, Snake, and Yakima. So we are still very river-driven, and we do a lot of things in our communities. We actually have 3 port districts where I live. Port Kennewick serves, almost 500 square miles is our district. We have the Port of Pasco that operates the Pasco Airport, which is our commercial airport, general aviation airport. We have the Port of Benton, which focuses on science and technology, and they have a 2 general aviation airports. So our port districts serve not just transportation. We've been in the rail business in the past, a lot of those transportation functions. A port district where I'm from is a special purpose government. So you have cities, counties, ports. Ports can own property in Washington state. So we have a portion of the property tax is paid to the Port of Kennewick, as well as we own buildings and we own land. We own that land to then redevelop it. Usually it's in a challenged part of our community. We redevelop that then to try and get it back onto the tax rolls. So there is a engine that's running behind this. Next slide, please. Elected body of 3 commissioners. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge them. We just had an election a couple days ago, so Commissioner Moak on this end, he is retiring, and so I will have a new commissioner, new boss by the time I get back home tomorrow. Next slide, please. So what I'm doing today is I'm giving you a 2-for-1. I had talked to Will and Susan about Columbia Gardens Wine and Artisan Village, and that is a mouthful. It is part of one of our redevelopment projects, but we've got another project called Clover Island that is very close in proximity in what we call our historic downtown Kennewick area. So with this project that we have on Clover Island is 16 acres. The Port of Kennewick owns the island except for one little piece that is the Coast Guard station. But this island has gone through a rebirth over the last 20 years. And when I say that we're a small port district, we are a small port district. We have a $3 million capital budget for every 2 years, but we have grand plans and we have grand projects. And because of those grand plans and grand projects, we need partners. So we do a lot of partnering, and there's a lot of partnerships that go into all these projects that I'm going to show you right now. So everything starts with a plan, and here we have a picture of Clover Island. So we'll kind of run through a timeline on both of these projects and share with you the next slide. So Clover Island, like I say, is 16 acres. We have gone through this iteration of marina, commercial. It's really been a rebirth. So when you come onto the island, you come through an archway. Next slide, please. The first thing the port did back in the early 2000s is, and we've been there a long time. We've been on that island a long time. Not much has changed. And then as a new executive director came on board, he wanted to start making things happen for our community. So we had an existing marina, and that marina was, this is a before picture of our marina. The people who ran it, they loved it. It's a family in our community that really, really love the community, but the marina was a little scary. My husband and I had a boat down there, and the docks were a little bit scary to walk on. So the commissioner said, let's invest in the island and let's invest in our marina. So these are before pictures, and we'll show you what it looks like after. $9 million later, in 2003 dollars, we have the Clover Island Marina, serves about 150 boaters. And we have some houseboats, no liveaboards, but then we also have a lot of moorage that is available for people to rent. And the Clover Island Marina is part of my division. And we have, when I say small staff, there are 13 of us total. Maintenance, about 4 maintenance guys. Most of them are finance people, I'll just tell you that, because we have a lot of regulatory environment that we have to deal with. But this is what we take care of. This is what we offer to our community. Tri-Cities is very water recreation driven, so I've had a chance to walk around Lakeport and enjoy the lake, and it makes me think about home. It makes me think about all those water recreation aspects that we also have in our community. And so this has been a key element on Clover Island to encourage water recreation. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we can own property. So the port has invested in the island. This is our office on Clover Island. We rent space down below. So we rent to a restaurant that's down below, and then our offices are upstairs. But this was part of bringing something new to Clover Island, and this has happened over the course of years. When you've got an island, you've got a yacht club. So we, separate from the Clover Island Marina, we have a yacht club. The yacht club has their own marina, and they manage their docks and their space, but they rent the water from the Port of Kennewick. And their beloved yacht club building was the one up top, and the port came in and said, hey, if we give you a long-term lease, can we tear it down? Can we just tear it down and start over? So this is the new building that's down below. We do have rental space in there also, because our funding comes through a little bit of property tax, but also rental income from the different buildings that the port owns, so that we can put that back into our other projects. The yacht club is on the lower level, and we have some office space up top. Next slide, please. So as you come onto Clover Island, I mentioned a gateway. We have a grand entrance. So there's an entrance as you come onto the island. And that is important when you have a redevelopment area, that there's an entryway. Come on in and enjoy what we have to offer. So we put in a gateway and a lighthouse. Now, that would be a seaport thing. You would typically think to see a lighthouse on the ocean, but our executive director said, no, let's put a lighthouse on the Columbia River. And it is a functioning lighthouse. We get barges that come up and down the river, but they don't need our lighthouse to guide their path. So this, in the very beginning, that lighthouse was symbolic. He got a lot of criticism for saying, why did you spend money on that lighthouse? And now, fast forward, people forget that we had to spend money to build that lighthouse, and now we have, it is iconic. It is in so many people's homes, on pictures and photographers, and it's enormous. Quinceañeras and weddings and people getting engaged at the lighthouse. So it is a place for people to go. It is iconic for our community now. So he got a little bit of hate in the beginning, but it has turned out pretty well for Clover Island. Redevelopment. The island needed a lot of redevelopment as far as shoreline restoration. So it was pretty bleak and barren, and we took this in phases. We took Clover Island in chunks. So this is our West Causeway. This is how you get onto Clover Island. This is our West Causeway. And we invested the money to do the shoreline. Not only does it make it look more attractive to come onto the island, but there's this shoring up of that area so we don't get the erosion that you would see. The Columbia River is a pretty active and aggressive river at times. Next slide. We've done a lot of boating improvements. We've done a lot of things for our boating recreation community. We have boat launch that is widely used. In this particular project, we put in a public restroom. That was very, very important. We needed those public facilities for people to use while they're launching or just walking around with their kids on the island. And there are amenities that you really think about what those amenities mean to people. Walking their dogs, having their children out there, safety. We do have a lot of cameras out on our properties as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about partnerships. We have a very strong partnership that has taken many years to grow with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. This is part of their ceded territory where Clover Island is located, and so we have worked really hard to embrace their culture and honor that heritage that is with the Umatillas. So on Clover Island, we have what is called the Gathering Place, and it represents their story of harvesting tules along the Columbia River as part of their heritage and fishing along the Columbia River. So we have these wonderful bronzes and tules and water. And something that we did when we constructed this particular project is we worked with the CTOIR on the plantings, on sourcing the plantings from their nursery, getting them very involved in the project so that it wasn't just done, here you go. This was a collaboration. So we've had a number of blessings that the CTOIR has came in and performed as far as sharing their culture with the community and reminding them that this is their ceded territory. It is a very moving experience when we get to be part of one of the blessings, and this was a blessing that they did for the boat launch improvements as well as some other shoreline restoration. Willow fish traps, another part of our CTOIR projects, big beautiful bronze fish baskets that we have down by the Gathering Place. We'll talk a little bit about art. And this time of year, we're gearing up for the holidays. So we have a lighted boat parade. I see that there's some activities that happen out on Clear Lake. We have a lighted boat parade every year. We started out with just putting a few lights on a few trees, and it gets out of control very quickly. So it is very festive on Clover Island. My maintenance guys, you know, they roll their eyes, but they bring their families down. They're very proud of all the lights that we do. We have what we call our Christmas tree, our lighted Christmas tree. It's red, white, and blue. It looks a little purple in the picture. But this is to honor our veterans of our community. Probably our biggest project was what we call the 1135 project on Clover Island, and this is a major shoreline restoration project. The reason we call it the 1135 project is because it's literally the line item in the federal budget was 1135, so we didn't get too creative from that. 15 years ago, one of my coworkers, she applied for this funding. We needed all kinds of input from our jurisdictional partners in order to get that funding from the Corps of Engineers. It's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in our area. And the Corps of Engineers, this project was probably $4 million, $5 million, 75% feds, 25% local match. So we have skin in the game, but we didn't have to put all the money in ourselves. Then we also applied for what is called a recreation conservation grant. So we applied for some grants for some upland improvements, benches, a walking path. So there was a lot of sourcing of funds, as we know, as always an issue. You're always looking for funds. So this shows the shoreline after the restoration. The biologists come in. This was really a biological restoration project. So to help with the salmon habitat, the fish, and then, you know, the beautification was kind of a side benefit. But what I was really asked to talk to you about was Columbia Gardens Wine and Artisan Village, which is just right next to, you go through the archway, you take a left at the light, and we've got a whole little area right next to the river, adjacent to the river, that is in redevelopment. What's most interesting, and I think just kicking off with the next, is to give you perspective. This shows you where Duffy's Pond is adjacent to Clover Island. So proximity-wise, they're very close. And we have a lot of great amenities that connect the two. What's maybe most relevant about Columbia Gardens is that it's 6 acres. So right in the middle of this little redevelopment area, and this is what we call East Kennewick. This is our older part of Kennewick. This is where my mother used to go to the Zips. It's right across the street from this area. It's an older part. We've expanded west in our community. So a little bit forgotten and a little bit neglected is what I would say. So the port owns the areas that you see are highlighted. Cable Greens, again, we don't get terribly creative. It's a former mini golf course called the Cable Greens. It's about 3 acres. And then we have what's called the Willows, and that's about 4 acres. That leads on to Clover Island. The Willows was a former trailer park called the Willows. So we are in the process of redeveloping all 3 of those. The Willows and Cable Greens are up for sale because we want to bring in that private sector investment and bring in those private sector dollars and put it back on the tax rolls. So we're looking at a plan that has been incorporated for all 3 of these areas, but Columbia Gardens is the most fun right now. But it wasn't so fun when we started. Duffy's Pond, which basically is a drainage pond from all the wheat farms, comes into the drainage pond, and then the Corps of Engineers pumps it out into the Columbia River. That Duffy's Pond area was full of decades worth of stuff. Tires and car bodies and all kinds of things that you don't want to know. And we had volunteers out there. Again, community engagement. The volunteers that came out were incredible. Not just people that the port we were out there digging things out with our loader, but we had the community out there helping. And there was a lot of stuff that needed to be removed just from Duffy's Pond. Oh, our marketing person called it ShareFest. So apparently it's called ShareFest. So along Columbia Drive were a number of buildings. The port purchased all of those buildings in this 1 6-acre parcel. We purchased all these buildings, looked at them and said, which ones can we salvage? One building had this beautiful barrel ceiling inside. It was gorgeous. It was empty. One winter, the roof fell in. So that, thankfully nobody was inside, but most of these buildings we were just not able to salvage. So we went through and took them all down once the port purchased them. And I'm going to tell you I've been a part of a lot of construction projects that I've been a project manager on or I've helped on, and demolition is my favorite. So just saying, demo's my favorite. A lot of planning goes into these projects, right? It all starts with a plan. So Columbia Gardens started with a plan. A lot of times our master plans will go by certain developments. Clover Island had a master plan. Columbia Gardens Historic Waterfront has a master plan. We have master plans for different parts of our community and different port projects. But everything started with a plan. And as we're trying to decide what are we going to do with Columbia Gardens? How are we going to get people down here? This is an older part of town. We need to attract them. They're all going other places. Wine. So here's where we're very similar. Wine is very popular in the Tri-Cities. We have the Red Mountain Appellation to the west of us. We have Walla Walla to the east of us. And the Tri-Cities, for people coming out of Seattle, go right through the Tri-Cities to Walla Walla. So we're trying to capture those folks to get off the beaten path and come into our community. And so we used the wine industry as our catalyst. And coming into this project, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces just to bring in these buildings. So these are 2 renderings of what we have for, there are actually 3 production buildings. We have 2 wineries in these buildings. They have space for production. They have space for a tasting room. The tasting room was a requirement so that we could get people in to Columbia Gardens. But the production side of it was very important to some of these small wineries. They were at a point where Department of Ecology was saying you need to treat your wine waste, and instead of having to put a couple $100,000 into their own treatment facility, we worked with the city of Kennewick to say, hey, how can we make this work to where they can have wine production here in town, not just out on a farm somewhere. And so the city of Kennewick invested in a treatment where our tenants, my 2 wineries, they pay a metered rate. So they crush their grapes, it goes into the drain gets to an interceptor where, and I'm going to oversimplify this, baking soda, like product, is added, and then it gets neutralized before it goes into the city sewer system. So they pay a metered rate directly to the city. That was very attractive, and it helped me get tenants into those buildings. Starting in 2018, I've jumped ahead. In 2013, when we talk about planning, we bring in the community. We bring in the community, we bring in our jurisdictional partners. This is not done in a vacuum. More pictures of before. Duffy's Pond, even though it looked terrible, we now have so much watchable wildlife down there. We have trails where you can walk along in front of the wineries. You can see all kinds of animals that I didn't even know. Having lived there my entire life, thought was not even possible. But we have such a huge bird watching community now because it has been opened up and become accessible to the community. Have to get the politicians in there on a shovel, so doing some groundbreaking at Columbia Gardens. More partnerships, cannot stress that enough. Benton County has what they call rural county capital funds. And portion of the sales tax from Benton County comes back, it's got a window, I think it's through the legislature, it's got a window, comes back to Benton County, and Benton County can give those funds out either for their own projects, they use some of their RCCF funds to build a jail, or they can give it back to their jurisdictional partners. We have an excellent relationship with our county, and they have put money into anything infrastructure related that will help with commercial development. So we put roads in, we put sewer in, we did all that underground work that need to be done, and our county partners help support that. This is a grand opening of our 2 wine village buildings, production buildings, and this exceeded all of our expectations. The community was so excited to come out and support this project that we did this, I think, in winter. I think this was in February, which you're always crossing your fingers to make sure that the weather's going to cooperate, because in the Tri-Cities we get 120 in the summer, single digits in the winter, and there could be snow on the ground. So we have an arid lands region, but this shows the support that we had for redevelopment of downtown Kennewick. So love my tenants, that's my day hat is love my small businesses, love my tenants. These are my 2 winemakers that have been there since day 1. They love being down there. They are ambassadors for Columbia Gardens, and I could not say enough about either one of them. Victor Palencia and Bart Fabush, they are different ends of the spectrum. Victor he's hitting the stratosphere, he's got buildings all over the place. Bart is your chemist with the glasses that are cockeyed, and he is just all about making great wine and the chemistry behind it. So love them both. Just give them a little bit of shout out on a lot of the awards that they've both earned over the years. Phased approach. Cannot stress that enough. We have had to do a phased approach because of all of our different, this is not our only project. We have lots of different projects. We need those partnerships, and we take a phased approach. Utilities in our loop road opened up more parcels so that we could do additional development. And when I talked about that building that fell down, beautiful barrel roof, would have loved to do something inside that. We took our insurance proceeds and we put it into a 2-tenant tasting room building. So this is the additional building that you see right here. And as part of our utility project, we added a food truck plaza because a lot of our wineries didn't want to have a kitchen. They didn't want to do the food service component. So we put in a food truck plaza to help with that food service piece. It also gave an opportunity to micro businesses. Food trucks are micro businesses in our community, and we have a lot of them, growing food truck population in the Tri-Cities, and so we have our own pod in downtown Kennewick. This is our building. So for many years, I've had 2 winery tenants in there. And during COVID, that kind of shifted a little bit. We've had these tenants in there, but our master plan said, you know what, you can have some variety. That came from the experts and also community input. So this is just a picture of our food truck plaza. Seating is big. You need to have seating. We get super hot, so we need shade. And it's just fun to, our marketing department, she is really, really good about doing grand opening, ribbon cuttings. We're not a chamber. Our historic downtown Kennewick partners, the chambers, they come in and they do the events. We get a lot of the media. We have an excellent media relationship, so marketing and relationships with your media are super key. So this was what we thought we could save money doing. It is a cargo container that we decided to transform into a restroom. We needed a public restroom down there. So we saw all these great examples of cargo containers that were used as public restrooms, but our planning department at the city of Kennewick and our building department, this threw them for a loop. So yeah, so I don't recommend it. But we did finish the project, and we now have a public restroom. And we don't like having anything just sit ugly and gray. We wrap everything. We wrap everything. We wrapped the cargo container. It's a beautiful piece of artwork, and we just, it's turned out fine. But I don't think we saved any money. We could have done a stick-built building and probably broken ground. When I talk about the tasting room building, and we're shifting gears a little bit, people have been telling me, Amber, you need beer. You need beer down at Columbia Gardens. And I'm like, I know. Well, I had a tenant transition out of one of my spaces in the tasting room building, and we decided to open up our applications to some of our microbreweries. Put the word out there, got some feedback. One of our businesses, they've been open for just a couple years, but they're wheat farmers. They started a brewery on their own land up on their wheat farm, and it's become super successful. So they expressed interest, and I've been working to get them in there, and they just signed their lease starting November 1st. So WHOW is Wheathead on the Water, and they will be joining us here, probably open by the first of the year. Then one of my other winery tenants, my tasting room tenants, they are retiring, and they will be leaving my building at the end of this year. And there is an artist. So we're trying to get this variety. I've got my wonderful wineries with production and tasting rooms, and they're drawing people in. We're going to have a small brewery, and I've got an artist that's coming in first of the year where she is doing art classes, not just a gallery, but she does art classes. She focuses on painting. Her level of enthusiasm is over the top. In her application, she had some of her students send in recommendations on why she would be a good fit for downtown Kennewick. And I thought, if anyone's going to do that, we got to give her a shot. And as a special purpose government, we can take a little bit of that risk. We can give a small business a chance. And if their success is our success, and that's how we look at it. The trail, nature trail, biking, it connects back to a larger 25-mile Sacagawea Heritage Trail. So there's this connectivity that we have also with Columbia Gardens. And we have spurred additional private sector development. I have lots for sale in Columbia Gardens, but it has spurred additional development by the private sector. So we're super proud of that. Up one day comes this mural by one of our neighbors, and we thought, that is gorgeous. And it's an industrial electric company. So murals are huge. We have storytelling through murals, and as I walked around Lakeport yesterday, I took lots of pictures of murals. You also have some wonderful murals down here at Lakeport. So let's see what else. One of my food truck operators, he wanted to expand his business and do more catering. So he needed a bricks and mortar place. So he had a partner come in, purchase the land from the port, and put up a building for him. And this, to me, is the progression of a small business from micro business in a food truck to a bricks and mortar. And he wanted his business to be in Columbia Gardens, not just go somewhere else. He is a huge ambassador for that little, we're talking 6-acre development that we have. Oh, my plug for parcels for sale, but share that with a friend. We do have property for sale, but we're looking to pivot. We're looking to be agile on what we're doing with some of these parcels. Art is huge economic driver for our community. We embrace art. Our cities embrace art. Our ports embrace art, our counties, everybody embraces art as an economic development driver. It brings vibrancy to your neighborhood, it brings people in, and it continues with storytelling. So we have a ton of art, and we have a ton of local artists, so we do a lot of that. From Columbia Drive, this is mostly Clover Island. We have a lot of art on Clover Island. And then this is Columbia Drive. We're able to get some funding to help with a new bus shelter. So this piece of artistic, it's the prettiest bus shelter in the Tri-Cities, I can tell you that. It's called Rolling Water, and it kind of simulates the Columbia River. This mural spans 2 buildings on our wine village. The mural, it's near and dear to my heart. We had the Latino Heritage Community, a committee, come in and help the port select art for these buildings. They worked with the artist who went through a whole process where they were selected, independent of the port, to come in. He did interviews with people who had farm workers. We're paying honor to our agriculture heritage, to the farm workers who are picking the grapes that put the wine on our table. So their stories are woven into these 2 murals, and when people see that, they're like, that's because of my grandma and grandpa, that's because of my family. And it is just wonderful to see their buy-in, that their ownership, they own this mural. So this was a really nice way for us to share that with our community and our partners. Well, in closing, I know I ran through this pretty fast. We have a lot of things going on. My biggest project isn't even this one right now. So we have a lot of redevelopment projects going on at the Port of Kennewick. But we do, my key takeaways are we had a plan for each one of these. We had a catalyst, started with our wine industry, which I think I had a picture up there of my demonstration garden. We have a little demonstration garden in Columbia Gardens that Victor helped me put together. He told me which vines to buy. He told me the supplies to get. He told me the soil to bring in. And I actually had grapes this year. So maybe next year we'll have a teeny tiny bottle of wine that comes off of it. But we have our catalyst. Investment. The port over 20 years has invested a lot of money in these parts of town that maybe the private sector wouldn't have looked at initially. And partnerships. Partnerships from our jurisdictional partners to our Native American partners to our state, federal, you name it. We want to talk to people about partnerships. And I talked a lot about art. We look at art as economic development and vibrancy. One thing I didn't put in there was we can build it, but we have to, they need a reason to come. So we have a staff member who works on just events, just getting events into Columbia Gardens. We have done night markets, we have done trick-or-treat events, we have done very large things and very small things. So you have to have a vibrancy component to get people to want to come down. If they come down once, they may go, oh, I haven't been down here in years. And that is exactly what you want to say is, come back again, come back and see us again. Bring your kids down and ride the trail. Last is adapt. I heard it earlier in somebody's presentation, being willing to adapt. And even though we're government, I feel like we're very adaptable government. And one of our consultants once told us that people support a world in which they help create. And that I repeat over and over again because it is so very true. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Good afternoon. We're going to bring it home back to our local region with this next panel. My name is Sarah Bodner, and I'm the CEO of West Business Development Center. We're a technical assistance center that helps fuel economic development by helping businesses succeed. And we are joined here today by our technical assistance partners to the north, east, and the south. And the next panel is going to be hosted by my colleague, Will Franklin, SBDC Director, to talk about the importance and power of working with local entrepreneurs to build successful businesses. Thanks, Will.
So if you're an entrepreneur and owned a business, raise your hand. So you know how to pivot, right? Well, we had 4 panelists, and one had an emergency daycare inspection, so turned around on their way here. A really cool cafe truck owner, Matote Cafe, had his truck broken into, so he's filing a police report right now. So that leaves Will Franklin, Economic Development Coordinator, here to just put on a show for you. So, no. As an entrepreneur myself, in ag business, where you got one chance to pick grapes and your entire production season is on the line, you have backup plans. So luckily, plan B. Okay, so here's plan B. I would like to introduce 2 entrepreneurs and 1 resource provider who is going to talk to you today about entrepreneurial ecosystems and the fuel that creates success. So I want to introduce Valentina to come on up, Reyes Peterson. She's a resource provider here with West Center, and she's going to speak to us about some of her awesome resources that are available to our whole area. And Danielle Tyrell, he's an entrepreneur that did show up, thank goodness. And then I have Nick Lamb. Are you in the house? Come on down, Nick Lamb. Lamb Printing. So we had 4 entrepreneurs, now 2, that have won recent business competitions that fuel economic success, that fuel new business starts. The idea then today is to talk about their stories, about being an entrepreneur, and about pivoting, right? I'm a parent also, and I think all the time about how my business is like having a kid. You give birth to it, you put so much time and energy into it, you feed it all the time, it's nonstop, right? You're waking up in the middle of the night, are the kids okay? And that's how it is to be a business owner. And so just like raising a kid, it takes a village to raise a child, it really takes a whole ecosystem to support a business too. And it takes lots of energy and inputs and food. And so we're going to talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur, and then don't forget you're not alone, right? You're not alone in this. You have to have inputs and connections and input. So we're going to talk a little bit now and let our panelists introduce themselves. We'll just start with who you are, your business, who you serve, your location area, and a little bit about what you really like about your business or being an entrepreneur. So I guess we'll start with Nick. We'll change that question a little bit for Valentina. Go ahead, Nick.
Sí.
I think.
Bueno, hello?
Do we have another one? I can give this one.
Hello?
There we go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Okay, my name is Nick, and I own Lamb Printing. we started lamp printing and in the year 2019, like 3 months before COVID. Imagine start a business before COVID. Yeah, it was something else. Uh, well, I own my business with my wife, Myra. She's not here right now because we got twins girls and she's take care of the girls now. Being an entrepreneur for me was something new because none of my family, they are entrepreneur at all. So I didn't have any idea how to be an entrepreneur. The idea came, I was eating in a parking lot of a restaurant. I was eating with my wife, and one day I received a call, and a friend told me how is my life, how I was doing in Lake County, and I talked to him. Oh, everything is so nice, and he told me, do you plan to open a business, or what are your plans over there? Because I moved from the Bay Area, and the idea stuck in my head that day, and I was talking to my wife about it, and what should we do, and we need to do something else, because we were with stable jobs, my wife and myself, and like nowhere we decided to open our business in 2019. If someone told me, oh, it's going to be COVID, maybe it might be another idea, or I don't know. But it was something else, and we enjoy it. Maybe later we can, I don't know, if we want to talk about how we started business. Oh, yes?
Yeah, why don't we let Dan introduce and I'll come back to
Okay,
that.
so my name is Nick, and I had 33 years old.
All right.
I forget, did you mention the diaper changing that goes on with raising these babies?
Yeah.
No?
So you have babies too then.
No, okay. Lots of diaper changing. My name's Dan Tyrell. I have a martial arts school in Middletown. Not a lot of people in Middletown. There's 1,200, give or take. We pull from about 8,500 total. And I started martial arts when I was a kid, 8 years old. My mom started the classes right before me, and then I ended up doing it too. And it just sort of stuck. It was something that I loved to do. And I took what I loved, started teaching. I didn't grow up in Lake County. I grew up in Napa County. I started teaching my own little program in Yountville. Back when Yountville had kids and families. It's not that, I mean, they still have kids and families, but the demographics definitely changed. And then opened up a school down in Napa. 2008, I ended up, or no, go backwards. 2003, I moved up to Lake County. Houses down in Napa got to be too expensive. And opened up another school in Hidden Valley. And yeah, I've been up here ever since, and it's been a lot of fun. Lots of different things have gone on in that time frame. So
We'll get into that soon then. And Valentina is a resource provider, and I really wanted to give her a chance because she's the one lifting up, and she lifts up so much, and she lifts up over a wide variety over our entire 4 or 5 counties. So I would like you to speak to your role and all the services that you provide, Valentina.
Thank you, Will. Oh. Thank you, Will. Doesn't work. Thank you, Will. Well, it's a big honor for me to be here today, and thank you to all the participants that are here supporting this community and for this great invitation. And my name is Valentina Reyes. I'm representing West Business Development Center. And recently, I became the Women Business Center Director. Thank you. Thank you. It's a big honor. And since 2022, I have been the Program Director of Centro de Negocios West, which is an initiative from West Center to support the Spanish-speaking community in our whole region. It's the only program that offers one-on-one advising for Spanish-speaker entrepreneurs. And we also have workshops and webinars online, and also in person. It's a very robust program with an amazing team that is dedicated exclusively to support the Spanish-speaking community that is over the 28% of our population. I'm happy to be here and happy to answer all the questions. Thank you, Will.
I have a great question for you. Since you worked with the two entrepreneurs from Mendo that weren't able to come because of emergencies, do you want to speak to Veronica a little bit and Adrian's and how you met them and what resources they used from you?
Yes. So, Veronica started her path, and I was the one who have to go and collect the success stories when we have to report to our founders what we do with the financial support that we receive. So here is Veronica. Actually, I took that photo. She is from Mexico, and she always had that passion to be a teacher. Like when I was interviewing her, she was almost emotional, like tears. I always want to be a teacher, and I came here, and what with the challenges. And I know firsthand what is the challenge to be in another country with the language barrier, the lack of understanding about finances, legal process, understanding the community, having maybe lack of social skills to interact in another country. So I have this very deep sense of empathy with our community. And she was almost in tears sharing that she always had that dream, and then she moved here, and she was like, that never going to happen. But she really wants to have her daycare. So she heard about West Business Development Center. And she came with one idea and a dream. And she had this field interaction with George Berastegui, an amazing advisor, a general advisor. And he is one of my right hand, because George really had this sense of belonging with people, that he always find the way to support. He doesn't know, let me find a connect you, he makes things happen. And so she had that encounter with George and started working in the idea, developing the business plan, recognizing the niche, the need of the niche, and start to really feed in that hub and help her to go for a dream to a successful business. In less than a year, in less than a year, she could register her daycare. She participated in a program that we run every year. The name is Fundando Mis Sueños. And this program had the vision to support pre-adventure entrepreneurs through 14 classes online. We teach from the very beginning the right mindset to registration, taxes, marketing, all the steps. At the end of this program, the participants have to have ready the business plan and the pitch elevator. And in the first round, we have a grant called the Drum Funding. So she got $10,000 stipend. And with that money, she could invest and open up her own daycare. She is one of the businesses that have been recognized for the best of Lake and Mendocino Award.
Awesome.
And look at this. This picture, that is a place that once was a dream and now is a successful business.
That's amazing. And did you work with Adrian Mata at all?
Adrian is an English speaker, although he is Spanish. Adrian Mata. Adrian Mata.
Adrian? Okay.
He was part of Startup Mendocino. Startup Mendocino is a similar program that Fundando Mis Sueños, but it's an accelerator program. This program helps entrepreneurs that have been established from 1 to 3 years to robust, to learn new skills, and to take the business to a new stage and be more profitable, offer better services. So Adrian came as well. He's part of a community called La Familia. And we get in touch with, actually his close friend with Veronica. Veronica told Adrian, hey, these people can help you. So he was part of a startup, and he had this business idea. And last year, he won the best of Lake and Mendocino as well. So it's amazing to see the driven, the determination, the resilience that our community has, and be able to provide the tools, the resources, the support that they need to really succeed.
That is great. Thank you for that. And I'm picking up on a theme again. It's there's resources out there, and you're not alone. And that's a good pivot. Then I'll go start with Dan this time. Can you tell us about some of the mentors and resources that you tapped into to get your business going?
Yeah, when I first started, I think sometimes you get into business and you just don't really know that there are resources out there or that there's other people that have done ahead of you the same things. And when I first started teaching martial arts, nobody really looked at it like a business. My mom wanted me to go to law school, and I disappointed her. I spent 6 months in law school, and this is not for me. I know that there's a path forward in this. And for a long time, I don't know, just threw things at the wall to figure out what it was. And there was a point after COVID when I reopened, because we closed during COVID, and taught out of the park and through Zoom, which is horrific. The park was cool, but yeah, there was a point right after COVID when I reopened, and it just got too big. The business was really kind of, the way I would describe it is, you got a horse-drawn carriage and the horses are out of control, and they're going too fast. And I didn't know what the answers were. And I had this young guy who was working for me, and he started talking about his apartment and his, he's got a car payment. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm responsible for this kid too, right? It was just the Dan show before. And so I reached out. There was a pretty big organization that knows how to do what I do. And I said, just tell me what the answers are. I will drop my ego. I don't know anything. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. Within reason. But followed all the steps. And, the mentoring that I received, not just from them, I have 3 different mentors at this point now. Not cheap, but totally worth it. And it's sort of like a cheat code in a way. You're getting all their experience, lifetime of experience, and you could say, okay, the way I describe it is you might know 95% of how to do the job or the problem, fix the problem, whatever it is. But it's that 5% that you don't know that makes you successful. 95% in school, that's an A, you should be proud, right? I think 95% in business, you're just struggling all the time. It's that extra little 5% that gets you by, that takes you that next level. So that's my experience with the mentoring.
Awesome. And did you join one of the competitions around here? Was it the Lake County?
Absolutely. Well, we were both involved in One Team, One Dream. I did not make it into the first round. I didn't qualify, but somebody dropped out. And for those who aren't familiar, One Team, One Dream, Marianne Schmidt and Olga Martin-Steele, 2 very, very passionate and strong. I wouldn't want to fight either one of them. They're super cool. They organize the whole thing, and they get a lot of different organizations and sponsors together. And it's here in the Soper Reese, although I don't think they did it last year. I didn't think they'd do it this year. They did it last year. And basically it's sort of like a big Shark Tank, I think is what they looked at it as. But you're not selling your business, they just invest in your business. And so made it to the finals and somehow, and then got up on stage and you kind of present your business and ended up winning, and I felt pretty lucky about doing that. And there was a lot of mentoring that went along in the process too. A lot of self-realization too, like you're going through the different steps and you're like, why am I doing that? Because you're really looking at your business from a point of view of like, how do I sell this? And that's how I approached it anyways. Like, how do I sell my business to a bunch of people, investors?
So it really helped you kind of get outside and see it differently, see it new.
Right, look out, from a different angle.
That ego part of it.
Dropping the ego, that was a big part.
Awesome. Nick, do you want to share like some of your mentors and some of the resources that you've learned from and used?
Yeah, as he was speaking, we got involved with One Team, One Dream as well. It was the first year they started doing it, and my wife applied because we were a little struggle with COVID as you see, all the businesses closed, and we have to close our doors as well. And with 3 months barely start our own business, that was devastating for us. But not too bad, because, you know, in that time, masks were so popular, and we started making masks. So that one opened our business again, and we were selling masks a lot. We were sewing, we bought 2 sewing machines. I remember we went to Walmart and bought 2 sewing machines. I didn't know how to sew anything, but I learned that time with my wife, and we were sewing masks. And because what we do, lamp printing, is we do like custom apparel. Like we put any designs that you might think in apparel, even hats, jackets, whatever, you name it. And but that time we were doing only masks, and then people started, oh, why did you put my business name in my mask? And we were putting that. So that was when, in that time, we increased our sales. A lot of people, I think they closed their business in that time, but we were running. And then we were thinking what's next, and then we enjoyed One Team, One Dream. And we won that time the first year. We got in a competition with a lot of people, and they had a lot of experience. I think we were the youngest ones in that time. We were shaking when we were next to them almost, because they had experience and we are not. Well, we didn't know at that time, but luckily we win. I think the judges, they seen something like the others didn't have, and we won the money. But my mentor, honestly, the one he helps is I have a friend, like I said before, he called me one day and he said, open your business. And I don't know how I decided, we quit our jobs. My wife quit her job and I quit my job, and then we didn't have anything. We went to see that place in Clear Lake. It was empty, I think 2,000 square feet. No, 1,200 square feet. Yeah, 1,200 square feet. And we rented, and we talked with the landlord, and we paid like 3 months ahead. And we told him, if it didn't work,
That's it.
that's it. And he said, yes, okay, rent it for 3 months, and we'll see. And we worked really hard, and so my friend called me every day, I'll do this, do that, send emails, go knock doors, and all this stuff. And I listened, and really all of this helped me to put my name up there. And then people start putting my name like word of mouth with other business, and they see where we doing like good job. And right now, once in a while I talk to my friend, but he's in his own stuff now, I'm my own stuff now. And luckily we are like 6 years in business and keep working.
That is amazing. And do you have an employee? I think both of you have employees now, and that's a big move for a solopreneur to birth their baby, raise their baby, and then like start letting somebody else take care of it so you can go to the movies or something. But I think it's a proud moment. For me, it was a very proud moment that I created something and now a neighbor had a job. How was that decision? Was it out of necessity? How's it making you feel now as your business grows? Is it working for your business growth? Talk about that first employee or employees in general. How does that fit into being an entrepreneur?
Okay, so recently we had 2 employees. I think the need was when I got sick, and that was when I noticed, oh, if I got sick, everything is stuck. Oh, if my wife got sick, what am I going to do now? Because we work together. And that's when I decided, oh, no, we need to teach someone if someone's got sick, is back, and we can replace it right away. And it's working pretty good. We tried so many people before, and they last like maybe 1-2 weeks because they didn't like it. But recently we had 2, one lady and one guy, and it's been for 2 years almost, and working good for us. And I think that's the need when you realize, what is, I got something or I got sick, you know, you don't want your business to get with doors closed, and because the business, you need to keep going.
So it's more robust. Yep. So those solopreneurs out there, that's a way to build resilience. I know you talked about that young man you were first employed. How the employees going now for you, and how's the growth going?
It's always fluctuating, and Lake County is sort of, you know, we get to see a lot of different, from our natural disasters to COVID. It kind of, we have our ups and downs, but in terms of where we're at, we have 2 full-time employees and then 3 part-time. And what that means is that, well, every other Thursday is payday. And I know a lot of people who are self-employed don't necessarily like that payday because it takes a lot out of their funds. But I looked at it like, well, I really get to do something that benefits other people. Like, it's not just me teaching martial arts in a little studio somewhere. Like, there's people now who are employed because of the things that we're doing. And it's a really cool job, too. I used to work in law enforcement. I worked at juvenile corrections down in Napa. Don't recommend it, you know. There's some people that do and they love it, but man, like, that was a rough job to have. And, you know, if you get a chance to, like, work with kids who you can change their life in a really positive way and you get paid for it, like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, from my perspective, it's been, it hasn't always worked out, and you know, it's a different kind of a job. Like, I just can't grab somebody off the street most of the time. You know, you have to have a little bit of like martial arts skill, but I think more importantly, you have to be a good people person. Like, if I could be like the best, baddest ninja on the planet, you know, but if I can't get somebody motivated to learn from me, it's probably not going to be the right fit. And so trying to find those people that can really make those connections happen and have the personality that they can motivate people is way more important than the actual, like, you know, I don't care if you can kick over your head or you can choke somebody or throw somebody. That doesn't matter to me. You know, I want to know that you can inspire somebody else to learn those things. So
That's awesome. I have another question about, I'm going to come back to Valentina if you don't mind. Yeah, good. No, right now I'm curious about marketing in a rural community. You know, again, the solopreneur can be overwhelmed, and they're juggling everything, wearing hats. They're the bookkeepers and the producers and the trainers. So you're also the marketer, and word of mouth is great if you can get it, but how do you even start, right? And you got, the first one leads to maybe 6 more, and then 6 more exponentially. Does that always work? How did you think about marketing in a rural community? Speak a little bit to your marketing strategies, and I think it just probably plays out to how it starts. And maybe we'll start with Dan this time and come back to, yeah, Nick.
okay, marketing is, I'm going to go back to the foundations, I think. It's about creating connections. You know, people like to, oh, you got to do social media. Or you got to put your ads up on Facebook, or you got to put flyers out, or you got to put things at the coffee shop. Or I think that's, I mean, all right, you can do that. That's superficial. You know, I think you have to be a real person, and people want to connect with you. And that's how you get that word of mouth. You know, like, how do you start? So, like, for me, I want to get out in front of people, whether that's joining like the local chamber or merchants association. For me, I love donating my time to do like women's self-defense classes, to do stuff for the seniors, to do stuff for the kids. And so I get out in front of them, and my coaches do that now. I mean, I still do. I love working with the kids. So I go up to Cobb School, Cobb Elementary, and my kids go to the Lake County International Charter School, and we just bring them to the dojo. I do the stuff on Cobb because that's a little bit, it's tougher to traffic them back and forth, you know, between the mountain and Middletown. Trafficking is probably not the right word. That sounded That's not what I was talking about.
Just transporting.
Just delete that. Delete that. That sounded bad. Anyways, it's like it's not. We're inundated with advertising, you know, and you have to be real. People are looking for real. If you're over there just like slap an ad out somewhere, it's just I think it falls short.
And you were talking about you have some mentors in kind of urban areas, and you were you noticed there was a little difference. Like they were striving for differentiation, and you were striving for partnerships with schools, and right, it was you almost were focused on in a rural area to be a generalist or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think you know when you're in the city, there's a lot of noise, and so one of the things that you know the different groups that I'm a part of, I'm the small fish. Like these people have like 600 students in Sacramento, multiple schools. I got 200 students in Middletown. And I'm always kind of like pinching myself, like, why am I hanging out? Like, why do they want me in the room? I'm like the little brother, you know, and everybody else is bigger. But I think a big part of it too is like we're making something work that isn't, they don't know those things because they have to deal with it in a different way. But what we do in a small town is so powerful. And it does translate to bigger cities, and it does translate to, you know, the suburbs. So like if I go to the store, I don't get to leave the store. If I go walk down to Hardester's, I'm at Hardester's for like an hour just to get one part, you know, and I'll get a text from my wife and she'll be like, are you done yet? You know, no, like I ran into like 3 different people. But like you can have that same vibe in the city. It's just how you present it, I think, is a little bit different. In a small town, it really is just about developing those interpersonal relationships, and the marketing becomes you, in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, we see, you know, if you, like, Weston's in the audience. Did we get a round of applause for Weston for lunch?
Weston lunch, yeah. Good point.
You know, you get to see Weston all the time. He is a prominent figure, and so when you're like, hey, where am I going to go have lunch? You're seeing him on social media, but you're not seeing his ad. You're seeing him, and you're buying him instead.
Man, you're going to steal my job for the next time in Lake County. You're going to be the MC, by the way.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll sing it out.
Yeah. I got a couple more questions, just one for Nick, and then we're going to go back to Valentina to close it out. Nick, I was talking to your wife, so I might be putting you on the spot here, but I was talking about learning from each other and the ecosystem that supports you, and she was talking about how I was asked about like being a chamber member or something, and she says, you know, I actually learn a lot from the people who I am making shirts for because they're other businesses. So you actually, in your business, is some B2B, business to business. You're creating hats and logos for them. Can you speak to some of those conversations with just other businesses when they're actually just using your products and that interaction from B2B?
I think we help business to promote their own business.
There you go.
Sometimes I always give that sample. If someone knock your door and is like a regular person, and this guy said, oh, I'm an electrician, will you believe this guy is an electrician? Or what if someone knock your door and wearing a hat with electrician logo and jacket logo, and which one you believe more? The one is wearing a hat or the one is not? I told this to the business, and they said, oh, okay, 20 hats. Yes, because people are afraid too when someone, I don't know how many of you knock doors, or you have like employees and have to knock doors to offer your business. And if they're dressing well or with gear, people are going to trust. And you're promoting your business too. I think putting a logo in your any clothing, it helps to promote your business, even you don't like to talk. Because some people are really hard to talk with other people. They get shy or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have to do it. Right now it's so easy. Let other people do the job you cannot do. That's why when I'm talking with someone, I always ask him, are you on a business? He says, yes. Oh, where is your logo? How I know you own a business. But I think that's the more talking to them and offer all the time. I'm selling my what we do. always. If I talk to you maybe in the lobby or something, I'm gonna be selling. and that's good, I guess. And the other thing we promote business is in social media. I like to talk, so it's not hard for me to talk in social media. Yeah,
Some good ones, yeah.
yeah.
Those are actual reels, by the way. They're not static. He has all reels up there.
Yeah,
So you
that
should
one-
follow him.
that-
He's good.
You see that the machine preview? We bought it with the money that we won with One Team, One Dream, and now it's making money every year. The machine pay itself now, and so that's how you grow. Like offer what do you do and do good quality stuff. Because this is a small town. If you do something bad, everybody's gonna know very soon. That's why you have to be careful in a small town, because you have to maintain your quality stand to, because people wanna grow so fast and they start doing so well, and then because they focus to grow like fast and start doing bad things. But I think we are taking it slowly right now.
I just had a crazy full circle moment. The very first job I had, paid job, was at a screen printing business. And she was a mentor of mine, the first businesswoman and business person I ever really talked to. And she said, do what you say what you're going to do, and then do what you say. And you just said the same thing. Say what you're going to do, and then follow through. So really cool full circle moment for me, but a really good idea, because in a small town, your word is your business.
Yes.
Yeah, great job. Okay, so we're definitely hitting on some themes about it's hard to be a solopreneur and a small business owner. It's really cool to hire your first people. That's your community building, and you're making your own community more resilient. And you can't do it alone. You need your vendors, you need people in your clients, you need the school partners that you're working with to do your classrooms. It really takes this village, this whole ecosystem, and it's out there. For those of you who don't know, there are technical assistance providers all over the place. And that is where I'm going to tee up Valentina, because she's a technical assistance provider. Just make sure we're really clear on all the stuff that you do, that Wes does, that is available to entrepreneurs, so that they're not alone, that they don't leave money on the table. When you're an entrepreneur, you're going to learn these things. You're going to trial, error, fail, try again. And if you keep going, you're going to succeed. But these technical assistance providers can make your learning curve go a lot quicker. And in business, that means you're not leaving money on the table. So if you know business owners, if you know somebody's interested in starting a business, please let them know that there are people there that can save them money, save them time, help them on their learning curve. And with that, Valentina, how do we help people learn more and about what you do?
Thank you, Will. Yes, definitely that is our mission. Your success is our mission. We have a robust group of professional people that is there waiting to help in every single step of the path becoming a successful entrepreneur. We have people that help in accounting process, contracting, marketing, expanding, selling, buying, professional people ready to support the entrepreneurs in our region. All our services are totally free, confidential, bilingual. You can reach out to us through our website, at www.westcenter.org. You can call to our offices, and we will be there waiting for you guys. Please share this information. As we mentioned before, we have the services in English and in Spanish, and also we have a very robust library in our website with different topics for different industries in different stages of the business path. For very beginning, for pre-adventure, for advanced, there are material available for entrepreneurs that need this kind of help. And as I said, it's for free.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. We have an office. We have also an office in Ukiah, and we have another office in Fort Bragg. And we have another program, very nice program that is very successful, the Digital Salon. We offer one-to-one advising with a teacher, instructor. Just bring your computer, and your questions, that you will have the opportunity to take a seat with the instructor and just answer your questions and get the job done. They need to create the website, need to learn how to create apps, how to use Meta Business, to conquer the digital world. We have someone there. Just taking a seat, bring your computer, and get the job done. So there are services that are there for the community. We are very happy to help you and to keep bringing more abundance to our region and prosperity. Thank you.
Oh, abundance and prosperity. Thank you. With that, is there a question? We have time for maybe one question of our entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur. We're going to go right into a break. Let's give it a hand up for our entrepreneurial panel. Nick, Dan, Valentina.
I am really excited. Our next speaker came highly recommended. With Redwood Region Rise, we have a sector called Arts, Culture, Tourism. And yeah, Calder Johnson, who's here, really was like, you should call Rachel Callahan. She is amazing. So she is the statewide agritourism coordinator for UCANR, which is University of California Natural Resources, Agriculture and Natural Resources. She has worked to promote urban planning and food security, and she does know her way around agritourism. So from the inspirational parts of agritourism, which is the like really fun, we can do this, it's going to be beautiful, to a lot of the sausage making, which is what are the regulations that we need to work on as a community to make this happen. She has that information, and today she's going to share it with us. So she's going to learn how we can embrace agritourism and create a more agritourism-friendly community as a way to strengthen our rural economy. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, everyone. Calder. I'm nervous now. You really hyped me up. No, but I'm really Woo! I'm really honored to be here with you all. You know, I spend a lot of my day-to-day interacting with folks who are very deeply involved in the agricultural community. So to be here in a room with folks that are focused on economic development is a really great opportunity for me. And I really appreciate the summit organizers and all of you in this room for seriously engaging with agritourism as an economic driver. And so there's a lot that I want to talk to you about. There's so much to talk about. But I really thought about how I could narrow my time with you all today and think about what are those key takeaways, or at least at the very least seeds to sprinkle with our time together. So this is the cue. Okay, cool. Thank you. Oops, I double cued you. My apologies. So the first key takeaway being that, just wanted to talk about that agritourism is a kind of very key component to, sorry, I'm like trying to keep myself on track here too. The relationship between agritourism and small farm viability and how that intersects and interacts with rural economies and rural communities. Secondly, really want to highlight that this is a kind of a key moment, both of need and of opportunity for agritourism in California. And then one more. I want to talk to you about this ecosystems approach to agritourism development. I love that we've already introduced the terms of the ecosystems approach in the previous panel. I think that all of you are a part of that ecosystem of support that is going to be key to agritourism development, to very thoughtfully shaping what agritourism can look like in this region, to not only benefit small farmers, but also to benefit the community and the economy in this region. And if you don't see yourself as part of that ecosystem at this moment, I really hope that by the end of today and after the end of tomorrow's sessions, that, that you do start to think about what is your unique role in this ecosystem of support. And if you don't, come find me and we can talk about it. So, next one. So I thought we'd go on a little journey first, bear with me. I thought we could go to South Tyrol, Italy, which actually I think has some parallels to this region. So South Tyrol is a region of Italy in the very north along the Swiss and Austrian borders that's nestled in the Dolomite Alps. You might imagine, because of its location, that outdoor recreation and tourism through outdoor recreation is important for this region. This region also has a very vibrant agricultural contribution to the economy and to, sort of historically, culturally to this region. The agriculture here is very shaped by the geography. There's lots of forested area, lots of alpine meadows that are conducive to livestock grazing. There, in lower altitudes, is a region that's very conducive to wine grape growing and apple growing. And then they have these very small contained villages where people actually live. I had the privilege of visiting this region when I attended the Global Agritourism Summit in 2023, which was held in the most populous city in this region. And I couldn't miss experiencing this, so I went early and took a little vacation so that I could experience the agriturismo of Italy. Next slide, please. So this region really artfully combines and integrates outdoor recreation, agriculture, history, culture in their agritourism strategy. And this region really is sort of the cornerstone of agriturismo in Italy. So this is an example of that integration of all those different sectors. You see here pictured, these are trails that are along a historic irrigation canals. You can see the irrigation canal there. And these trails run for miles and miles and miles. You could spend days going along these trails, popping off into villages. But the thing that's so cool about these trails is they are public access, publicly maintained trails that go directly through farms. So you can be walking along and all of a sudden you find yourself in someone's apple orchard, and then you're, move on, you're walking along and you're in someone's vineyard. And at certain points, these trails kind of connect down into the villages where you can go and you can shop and you can eat. They connect to different lodging options. Next slide, please. Thank you. And along the way, as you're hiking along, you can pull off into farm restaurants, and you can have a beautiful meal that highlights the local cuisine that's very of the place. It's not your sort of stereotypical Italian pasta. And you can, not pictured here, is you could have a very nice, crisp beer along with your meal, along your hike. And then you can get back, hike along, and go to your farm stay. It's just it's a nice integration that gives you this real sense of place. You know where you are when you can be out walking and eating and tasting and seeing and smelling what the place is. And so I share this with you because this is an example of a region that has very intentionally invested in agritourism development. They looked at their assets as well as their challenges, and they designed a strategy that would work for them. So they looked at their assets. They have this great outdoor recreation. They have visitors that are already coming to town for outdoor recreation. And they looked at their challenges. They have limited capacity in their tiny villages to house a lot of visitors. They also have a huge challenge of farm abandonment, as they call it, which is like a very severe term, I think, but it's basically the families are leaving their farms to go to urban areas. So they designed an agritourism strategy to speak to these assets and these challenges. They really leaned into this idea of farm restaurants so that for the visitors that were already coming to hike the trails,
the farms could participate in that tourist economy by offering them these farm meals. And that really shares what's the folks who are the money that's already coming into the county, that shares that with the agricultural sector. And then thinking about those challenges, the limitation of lodging, they really leaned into this idea of overnight farm stays so that they could essentially expand their inventory, the number of heads in beds that they could get. And that they could also attract visitors who might otherwise come for a day trip or might just drive right through to the next beautiful alpine region. But they could get them to come there because they could have this on-farm experience as well as the outdoor and culinary experience. So, and again, like this doesn't just happen. This took an ecosystem of stakeholders to develop this model. And so this is an example of agritourism, and this is an example of how agritourism can benefit a rural community. But the thing about agritourism is it can look a lot of different ways and mean a lot of different things. So next slide, please. So if we're going to back up and think about, well, what is agritourism? The U.S. does not have an official definition of agritourism, nor does the state of California, but the University of California, when we began engaging in agritourism in the 90s, developed this definition, which is a commercial enterprise at a working farm or ranch conducted for the enjoyment and education of visitors, and that generates supplemental income for the owner or operator. Well, okay, what does that mean? That's not super specific. So it can be anything from a farm-to-table dinner to overnight lodging, you know, an on-farm farm stand, a harvest festival, lots of different things. And the agritourism can be developed to be an attraction for outside tourists, like we saw with South Tyrol, Italy, or it can be developed to be really community serving. We see this a lot with U-pick operations and farm field trips. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Six Sigma kind of is doing a little bit of both. They're very much serving the local community, but also bringing in visitors for overnight stays. A couple of key points about this definition that I want to point out is that these activities are happening on a working farm or ranch, and that the income generated is supplemental. So this is really an idea of these are real farms who are, you know, in existence for agricultural production. And the agritourism, the visitor servicing side, enhances and sustains the work of that agricultural business, but does not sort of take its place. And the other key point about these activities happening on the farm is that the reward, as well as the risk, is really within the farm business owner. This is a business diversification strategy, which is different from, although compatible with, a farmer's market that would happen in an off-site location, or a farm-to-table restaurant in downtown. Those are each components of what I would consider a vibrant food economy and a strong local food system, but each distinct in their own way. And agritourism sort of intersects with outdoor recreation and with tourism and with hospitality and with these other sectors, arts and culture. And I think this is where that ecosystem of stakeholders comes into play to really have a role in helping to integrate these on-farm businesses to a larger strategy of community and economic development and really connect the dots across those sectors to maximize the community benefit. And I'll share examples of this as we go along. Next slide, please. Quickly, just want to provide a snapshot of what agritourism in California looks like. And I'm not going to go super in depth with any facts and figures, but you can find me after if you're curious. So, but I will say that these figures are drawn from the 2022 Census of Agriculture. They are flawed and incomplete, but they're what we have. And the shading in the map of our state basically just shows that there's agritourism everywhere in California. And I pulled out the numbers for this region, both in terms of number of operators as well as revenue derived from agritourism. Over the full state of California in 2022, agritourism income brought in just under $100 million. And most agritourism operators are engaging in some sort of on-farm direct sales. About half are doing education and entertainment types events of offerings, and only about 25% are engaged in outdoor recreation and lodging. So that's Six Sigma, right? They have the lodging and the outdoor recreation. But that's a real growth area that I think is probably of particular interest to this region. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's kind of get into what are the benefits here. So benefits for agricultural producers. Why would a farmer or rancher decide to just like invite a bunch of strangers onto their property? Well, increasing farm profitability, diversifying farm revenue, having diversified and new market channels, these sort of economic drivers are hands down the number one motivator. Farms are doing this for their economic viability, for sure. And it's not hard to wonder why. It's really hard to be a small farmer in California and anywhere. I should also back up and say that predominantly in California, agritourism farmers are what we would consider small. That is when you either look at just the acreage in itself or the total revenue that they're bringing in for their entire business, even if it's on large acreage. That's just kind of what types of farms are attracted to agritourism here in California. So it's hard for them to stay in business. They're looking for diversification. They're looking for ways to stay in business. That makes perfect sense. Here's an example of why thinking about income diversity is important. Income that is not directly linked to their farm products is important. I can think of an example from a couple years ago. Atmospheric rivers came in, flooded this woman's entire field. Her crop's gone. What does she do? At a certain point, there's nothing you can do to recoup that cost. However, she also hosted in a different part of her property that was not flooded, she hosted events, and that brought in income. Now, if she had both the product sales and the events, she would have had a really good year. But when those product sales went away, she at least could stay in business because she had that income from events. And as we see weather events and market disruptions increasing, becoming increasingly unpredictable and volatile, having these diversification strategies is super key, particularly to our small-scale farmers who are more at risk and more vulnerable to these shocks in the system. But it's not all about economics. Farmers who engage in agritourism also really talk about being driven by educating the public and feeling really connected to the community. These social motivators are also really important. Next slide, please. And for visitors, well, they're looking for authentic experiences. They're looking sometimes for just something to do on the weekend, but also a place to, learn about agriculture, to access farm products. And yes, unfortunately, someplace to take a nice Instagram photo. It is what it is. And we saw this a lot during COVID when our supermarkets were kind of scary to go to, or shelves were empty because of market disruptions, or when our schools and parks were closed. Farms really became a place for community members to not only access farm products, but just to have a safe space to be. And for communities at large, I think keeping farms and ranches viable is really important to the community in and of itself, and that helps maintain rural ambiance, and it also brings in economic benefits for the community as well. So there, from all perspectives, there are these social, economic, and environmental benefits that are both quantitative and qualitative. And I think the panel earlier with Six Sigma today really demonstrated those qualitative benefits. And I imagine our dinner tonight will as well. So next slide, please. So let's take another look at another example, a little closer to home this time. Raise of hands, who here has heard of the Apple Hill region? Yes, many of you. They've done a pretty good job marketing themselves. So let's back up and take a look at the Apple Hill region before they were Apple Hill. So back before the 60s, this small region of El Dorado County was predominantly, actually almost exclusively, grew pears. And in the 60s, a disease came decimated their pear trees. They were totally out of luck. They were on the brink of economic collapse and really seriously about to one by one start selling off their farms. So a group of people got together, a group of farmers, but other stakeholders as well, got together. They started brainstorming. They started looking around at different models from around the state and around the country. Long story short, they came up with a plan. They were going to switch from pear to growing apples. They were going to grow a diversity of types of apple trees so that there would be genetic diversity in case a disease came through. They would be a little bit more protected. But they knew that they couldn't compete with the apples coming down from Washington state if they were to go to the wholesale market. Washington just, had the economies of scale, had the relationships. They weren't going to compete doing that. So they said, okay, we are going to bring people out to our farms. We are going to show them a good time. We're going to give them some fun. We are going to have them taste our apples, and they'll see. We are convinced that once they taste these apples, they will see these are way better than any apples they can get from Washington state. No offense to Washington state. This is what they said. This is them, not me. But I do think their apples are good. So we're gonna show them that our apples are good, and we're also gonna teach them all the things they can do with our apples. We're gonna show them they can bake them, they can preserve them. So we're thinking about direct to consumer sales, consumer education, but also these visitor services with entertainment. They were doing agritourism. They didn't call it that. The term probably didn't exist then. I'm not even sure when it came to be. And they are convinced today, Apple Hill farmers are adamant that this is what saved them, that agritourism, and with a strong component of direct-to-consumer sales as part of their agritourism, is what kept them viable and kept agriculture in that region. They are very convinced that one by one, they all would have sold their land to developers, and that region would no longer be agriculture, it would be all development. This is, their lived experience. They believe that. So what is the value of keeping these farms viable? Click, please. So excellent. In 2018, El Dorado County conducted an economics study of just this region. And for context, this region is 1% of the total land of the county and 4% of the population. But it's bringing in 40% of the county's ag production value. So if those farmers are correct, and this would all be development if it weren't for agritourism, that would be a huge hit to the county's agricultural production and income. One more click, please. Oh, perfect. So in 2018, again, just this region was bringing in about $60 million a year in direct expenditures. That's about half from the agricultural products themselves, and about half those other visitor services, events and things like that they were offering. And this study is just for those businesses in that region. This does not include the restaurants and hotels in Placerville and nearby cities that certainly benefit from the visitors that are flocking there for Apple Hill. This, of course, also doesn't include the ecosystem services that those farms are providing. And the community benefits of having these community spaces, gathering spaces, family memories, all that. So I think this is a really interesting example to think about how we frame what's the value of agritourism. I think asking the question, how can agritourism strengthen our economy, is very valid. That's a valid question to ask. I think another question to ask is, what does our economy and what does our community look like if there are no farms, or if there are fewer farms, or if there are more consolidated corporatized farms? Next slide, please. And I think this is a question we kind of have to ask ourselves, because we are losing farms and farmland. It's happening all over the states, and it's certainly happening here in California and in this region. Since 2002, and this is 2002 to 2022, that 20-year period, so it's not up to date, these stats are not, but California has, and there's two typos on this slide, I will call them out in a moment, but California has lost 12% of farmland, and that's mostly due to development. The number of farms has also decreased by 21%. So the number of farms is decreasing faster than the total farming acreage because of consolidation, a lot of times corporate consolidation. I pulled out the stats of both of these figures for your region. I'm going to apologize to Lake County. You do not have 73% fewer farm acres. That was a spreadsheet error. You have 10% fewer. You're doing okay. You're better than the statewide average. I apologize. I thought it looked weird, and then I hit send on the PowerPoint, and then I thought again. And anyway, so this is 20. I should also mention that in addition to this, while overall farm profitability is kind of slowly rising in certain sectors, and I know you all feel this acutely here, in certain sectors, farm profitability is really declining. So the farms might still be up there, they might still be in acreage, but they're struggling, and maybe they are on, close to that tipping point of selling off to either consolidation or development. And again, this is 2022, so a lot has happened in our economy since then that makes it even harder for farmers to be farmers. And the solution to this problem, this is a big old problem, and the solution is complex. The solutions are complex, multifaceted. I'm under no illusions here. Agritourism is not going to solve this problem, but agritourism is one tool in the toolbox, and it's one point of intervention that I think we need to try things and need to take it seriously as one intervention. Next slide, please. And at the same time where there is kind of great need, there's also some really interesting opportunities in California right now. I think you all in this room probably know very well about the California Jobs First economic blueprint. You all, as a region, included agritourism or identified agritourism as a strategic economic growth opportunity, along with several other regions in the state. This year, there were also Visit California strategic tourism plans that were released. You all, along with many other regions, identified agritourism development as a key tourism growth strategy. There was also recent legislation, AB 518, low impact camping, that many of you might be aware of, that passed last month, that would streamline permitting pathways for agricultural producers to host campers on their site. That may be of interest to this region, I would think. And that is an opportunity in and of itself for farmers and ranchers, but it's also an opportunity of what we can learn from that legislation passing, which was a bipartisan effort that was supported by a very diverse multi-stakeholder coalition. So what can we learn from that momentum and that strategy to help form and shape future policy for other aspects of agritourism? And so I see this, and I'm like, great opportunity, very exciting. What's it gonna look like? What does it mean to actually, take advantage of this opportunity? How are regions who identified agritourism going to go about developing agritourism? Next slide, please. So take us back to South Tyrell really quickly, and think, how does this happen? How do we get to this point? Because when I was there walking around, I couldn't turn my work brain off, and when I look at these pictures, I see well-maintained public trails that go through private farmland. I see policy that enables farm restaurants and farm lodging. I see capital support to turn these very century-old buildings into actually pretty nice accommodations. There were some fancy bathrooms there, nicer than mine at home. And I see robust marketing efforts. South Tyrell is kind of, known to people, or Italy in general, known to people who are interested in agritourism. They've done a really great job putting this place on the map. And they've got a lot of competition. There's a lot of beautiful places in Italy to visit, and there's a lot of beautiful places, in multiple countries along the Alps to visit. And they've done a lot to bring people specifically there. So I see this ecosystem of stakeholders that were supporting regional agritourism development. Next slide, please. And so that brings me to this idea of an ecosystems approach to supporting agritourism development. And so going back to the definition of agritourism, yes, agritourism is an individual farm business developing their enterprise. And yes, they can do that in isolation successfully. Six Sigma, they lean on partnerships, but they're kind of like doing their own thing. And they're doing really well. But not every farm can be an example of that. I think there are many farms who have challenges where they could use the support of an ecosystem to either get them started or really to realize the potential. You know, even Six Sigma was talking about that. That's going to drive me crazy. I need to stop saying the name. Six Sigma was talking about, like, we need to get the word out. We need to do more. They're looking for, you know, you all and others who aren't in this room as their supportive ecosystem to even drive them to the next level. And I think they're, you know, they're doing great. So this diverse group of stakeholders that makes up this supportive ecosystem can really enable agritourism development, not only to encourage and support individual farm businesses in starting, but also, again, to help shape this cohesive strategy across sectors to maximize community benefit, to tie what Six Sigma is doing and let other farms benefit from that, or let other sectors of the community be engaged with that even more. There's even more potential there. And I'm suggesting that, you know, intervention and attention could be focused around sort of these three levers of policy, capital, and marketing. Let's talk about those a little bit. Next slide, please. So policies, a big topic, and I'm not going to go super in depth here, but I would be remiss if I talked about agritourism and didn't talk about policy, because every single farmer I talk to, that's kind of all we talk about is policy. And the leading challenges that are identified by agritourism operators are either caused by policy, mostly with regulatory barriers, or could be mitigated through smart policy. For example, one of the leading challenges for agritourism operators is liability. Well, many other states in our country have liability protections for agritourism farmers. California doesn't. That's a policy solution right there. And really the point is like everything I've discussed so far kind of is moot if farmers can't actually develop agritourism businesses on their farm because zoning won't allow them to do a certain activity, or because there are barriers to permitting because permits are wrong size and there's no pathway to entry there. On the other hand, there's a need to protect against unfettered growth. Over-tourism can be a real thing. Overdevelopment of agricultural farmland that kind of turns into an event center rather than being centered on the agricultural production can certainly happen. And that ultimately has negative impacts on the entire community. So there's a balancing act there for sure. Spoiler alert, I don't think anyone's solved this perfectly, or else I'd be using them as an example. It's a work in progress. But thoughtful policy is key to developing agritourism in a sustainable manner, and in creating equitable pathways for farmers and ranchers to even be able to participate in agritourism. And I know we're not policymakers in this room, but we all have a role to play. Everyone has a role in drafting policy, advocating for policy, providing data or background information to help have policymakers make informed decisions. And in California, most agritourism-related policy is defined and regulated and created at by local jurisdictions, typically through land use and zoning. I just want to quickly point out that many other states have statutes or statewide language around agritourism that can be liability protections, as I previously mentioned, or statewide land use and zoning codes, some exemptions. For things like lowering the barrier for fire codes on old barns, things like that, or for offering tax credits. So California is currently one of only 9 states that doesn't have any statewide policy for agritourism. But let's move on from policy. So in order for a farm to even be able to consider participating, there needs to be a policy pathway. Once there is, next slide, please, they're going to need capital to get going. So we're going back to Europe. I know that this region is a little bit different than the Scottish government, but I think what they're doing is cool, and I think there's some lessons to be learned here. So Scotland has decided to go all in on agritourism. It's pretty exciting. They want to be the premier destination for agritourism in the world. And they want their agritourism to be at a certain standard to represent what they think Scottish agritourism should be. So you got to help farmers along the way if that's what your expectations are going to be. So they have two kind of programmatic interventions that they started. One is what they call the Monitor Farm program. It was basically an incubator model where they had a cohort, a small group of farmers that had expert and peer-to-peer support in developing their idea for agritourism. Then they leveraged their Scottish Rural Development Grants program, and they adapted that program so that agritourism development expenses could be eligible for that grant program. So the farmers could go through this cohort, have their business plan, and then actually access capital to be able to start their business. And this points out to me a gap in our current funding where most ag grants and loans, agriculturally based grants and loans from USDA and CDFA, et cetera, are really focused on agricultural production. Those that are, I should say, those that individual farm businesses can access are very focused on agricultural production. There are a few that are available for marketing type expenses, but you can't market if you can't develop your business. So there's a current gap there with our ag lending and our ag grants. And then there are capital grants for things like downtown revitalization or outdoor recreation, where again, private farm landowners are kind of left out of. And there's different scales of needs. Capital investment could be as small as a couple $1,000s to kind of repave your access to your farm or have, a decent up-to-code parking lot or install an ADA bathroom. They could be really small, or they could be bigger investments, like bringing your barn up to code so you can have nice farm-to-table dinners. But I think the question here, because funding doesn't have to come from the government, is what are the existing mechanisms to help support entrepreneurs that farmers are just kind of left out of right now? Or the existing mechanisms to support, outdoor recreation and things like that, that could be expanded to be more inclusive of the agricultural community and agritourism infrastructure improvements so that these farms can actually be able to open up to the public. And you all probably know way better than me, so this is one of those seeds that I'm sprinkling, and I'm interested to see if a really cool, innovative model comes out of this region so that I can talk about it in other places in the future. Next slide, please. Okay, so policy enables farmers to participate, capital helps them develop their business, now we have to market the business. So California has really vibrant farm trails. But they're typically producer organizations like Apple Hill or nonprofit organizations that are fairly limited in scope and under-resourced, and we all know what that's like. So I wanted to show you this example of Travel Oregon. They are the tourism entity for the state of Oregon, and they have this is an example of a destination marketing organization, a DMO, recognizing the value of agritourism and food tourism broadly. They're not specifically just on farm. They really integrate the farm to table with the farm. But they've recognized the value of agritourism. They saw that this was a driver bringing people into the community, and they decided to invest in building it up even more because they knew that they would see that return on investment. So what they have committed to doing is they developed this whole food trail system throughout Oregon. They have, I think, 9 regions that have these food trails. So Travel Oregon funds these food trails. They design them. They manage them. It's actually kind of a lot of work to manage these things. They, of course, market them. They provide technical assistance to the businesses that they highlight because it behooves them to make sure that these businesses are ready to accept visitors so that visitors have positive experiences and come back. Again, an entity like a destination marketing organization, I don't think there are any in this room, but they're not nonprofit. They're not going to do anything out of the kindness of their heart. They are going to invest in something, again, that they are going to see a return on. So they have, decided we're going to commit X% of our annual operating budget to support this effort. I think that's super great. this can happen on the local level too. This can happen at the regional or local level where the tourism entities decide, you know, we are going to support this broader effort and bring it that next level so that when you build it, they will make sure that they come, or they will be part of making sure that they come. And then I just have one last example, next slide, of a little bit more of a grassroots example here. This is the Sierra Valley Art and Ag Trail. Does anybody know about the Sierra Valley Art and Ag Trail? Okay, check it out. It's usually in the fall. This is in the Plumas region of Eastern California. So this is an annual event. It's just a one-weekend event. A bunch of stakeholders in this region got together, and they wanted to do something that would highlight what was unique to their region. And they decided, well, we've got these great historic barns and all these cool barn quilts. We have really great artists. We have these big old ranches, and we have this scenic beauty. Let's do a one-weekend art and ag trail. We'll bring people in. We'll all open up. We'll, have the artists out in the barns, and it's this great community effort. And they've been doing it for 8 years. In 2024, they had 2,000 visitors come through. And it was a multi-stakeholder partnership between the ag community, the arts community, and the outdoor recreation community, and the University of California was really involved in it. And I know that arts and culture is important to this group, and Calder's shared some really great examples about the cool integration with art and outdoor rec that are already happening up in Humboldt. So I thought this might be of interest to you. And the thing that I like about this is it really works for the farmers in this community who said, we either don't have the capacity or the interest to be open to visitors on a regular basis. We're farmers, we're not doing all that. Or those who were interested, there wasn't really the visitorship to be able to sustain them, to make it worth their while to be open on a regular basis. But everybody could get on board with opening for one weekend. They get a lot of repeat visitors that go every year. They, of course, get a lot of new people, and it's a nice little boost economically for that community and certainly for the participating businesses. Next slide, please. So in closing, click, please. So agritourism contributes to small farm viability and can benefit rural economies and communities, both in quantitative and qualitative ways. It can look a lot of different ways and be shaped to meet the needs of your various stakeholders, primarily of your ag community. Agritourism can really be used to anchor tourism and bring in tourism in and of itself, like what we saw in South Tyrell. It can be a piece of the puzzle in attracting visitors to the region, as we see with Oregon, and it can be a tactic to preserving farmland and agricultural communities like it was in Apple Hill. Excellent, thank you so much. We are in this moment of both need and opportunity for agritourism in California. The need of this loss of farms and farmland and declining profitability, increased unpredictability and vulnerability, but also these great economic development plans, tourism development plans, new legislation and the momentum that that could mean. And then finally, one more, thank you. Thoughtful agritourism development really does require this ecosystem of stakeholders. Again, I hope you all see yourself as part of that, even if it's just to, sign a letter to your policymaker or something like that. But I think some of you can be way more involved than that, and particularly around, these levers of policy, access to capital, and marketing. So this is kind of just a peek into agritourism and hopefully some helpful context or ideas to kind of help inform how you all move forward as a region and as communities within this region and kind of seriously engaging with the possibilities of agritourism. And then, thank you. That's all. And I will just say, I will be at dinner tonight. I'm here tomorrow. I'm happy. Like I said, there was so much I wanted to talk to you about, so happy to continue the conversation and get into any sort of nitty-gritty and nuance along the way. But
Rachel, can we do a couple of Q&As real quick while we're a little ahead of schedule, so we have about...
How does that happen?
Yay!
Okay.
Are you open to that?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm open to doing my best.
Hi, Rachel. My name is Ish Herrera. I'm here as a guest in the region, as a partner from the San Joaquin Valley in West Fresno County specific. I really appreciate your presentation here. I totally agree that agritourism is a tool, an important tool for the farming community and the agricultural community. I've been having conversations with folks over the last day and a half about this issue, and one issue that I would love to hear more about from you and what the UC is doing is around alternative ownership models for preserving farmland and agricultural activity in the regions of California and guard against consolidation and development. What is the UC doing to help, for example, create co-ops of agricultural workers who know the land just as well as the farm owners to enter into the succession planning where there are no succession plans in place to preserve that farmland and that operation and production?
Such a great question, really important topic. And I'll just admit, I'm not the expert on this. In terms of what is the UC doing, the UC, several of my colleagues are working in close partnership with, because there are a lot of the external stakeholders that are doing a lot of work around this too, California Farm Link, Kitchen Table Advisors, different organizations, some nonprofits, some not, that are kind of deeply engaging in this topic and looking at all sorts of different types of models. And I think, I don't know, I see a colleague of mine up there who might also be engaging in this work. Maybe there's some connection to happen afterwards. I have given myself the homework to really increase my knowledge on land conservancies and like Williams-Mact and all these things, because I've been invited next year to engage in a conversation about the intersection between land and conservation and agritourism and things like that. And I admit that I need to increase my knowledge about that. So thank you. I'll do more homework. I'll get back to you. And if you all know, please inform me as well.
Hi there. Hi. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. There we go. Rick Lutweiler, and I'm from Trinity County. And I'm sure you've already seen on the agenda, we have a panel tomorrow on cannabis tourism. Is this something that you have dug into at all on your end?
Not specifically cannabis tourism. I know that those either individual farmers or there's a group that organizes farmers have participated in some of the trainings that that I have provided around. I think there's not really a different approach, and you can correct me. I'm staying kind of tomorrow just to see your panel. Of course, there are nuances, but I don't think there's an inherently different approach to cannabis tourism versus regular agritourism. I think the tools, the resources, the challenges are all going to be somewhat similar. So the resources of the university are available. I know that one of my colleagues several years ago invested specifically, not in the intersection with cannabis and tourism, but did a study on the cannabis industry specifically. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your panel tomorrow and seeing if there are ways that we can collaborate. I will say, because of the nature of my position, I do have to seek a lot of external funding, a lot of which is federal funding from USDA. So that is one area in which doing a specific project or specific research around cannabis, I'm limited by how my position is funded.
I completely understand, and that's something we hear all the time. I'm absolutely not the expert. I'm just the guy who's going to facilitate the panel of experts. But I know from spending some time with them, there are so many similarities to what you're describing. And then that one big difference that while farmers in general can go and get federal funding and assistance and support and all these sorts of things, these folks often are running into some big hurdles there, not just from the federal, but also from general politics, feelings about that kind of farming versus other kind of farming. And Trinity County has certainly been on our own roller coaster ride of all that stuff. But it's just interesting to see this, and in my mind, I kept kind of fast forwarding to tomorrow. So like you, I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Kraft from Humboldt County. You were mentioning policy change, and we have good relationships in this room with our local legislators, but are there people elsewhere in the state that you see trying to bring California into the fold of people with good policy frameworks, what to do about liability, the bathrooms, that kind of stuff? And who are they, and we'd love to connect with them.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. A challenge for policy change, and really a challenge for the growth of agritourism sort of as an industry in and of itself, is that the agritourism is very grassroots and decentralized in California. So many other states have like a statewide agritourism association that can speak on behalf of all the stakeholders and members that they represent. We don't have that. My position, which is a university position, is kind of an educator and a connector and a data collector of agritourism. And by being housed in the university, I cannot engage in policy advocacy. I can engage in informing policymakers. So that's a tricky position. So I have been trying to do a lot of work to bring folks together so that there can be this separate entity that can then do that work. I will say that in terms of liability, that's really being driven by a few key farmers. And I can connect you, Craig Underwood down in Ventura is like, this is like his dream is to get this liability bill passed here. There was legislation a couple years ago that ended up getting pulled. I don't think those same policymakers are going to introduce the legislation again, but maybe there can be a new champion for that. So anyone who's interested in connecting one way right now, until there is this robust external community, is I send out a listserv that is quarterly and has things like when there was that bill, just to inform folks. And if you want to be a part of a work group or anything like that, just connect with me later. But I'm doing a lot of informal connecting of the dots for state level. Now for local level policy, there are a few great examples where they've updated their ordinances in ways that I think are really smart. Santa Barbara County being one of them. Now, it's not necessarily copy and paste, of course, because every community is really different, but sort of their approach. There are lessons to learn with approaches to policy, and I've been doing a lot of, and I can continue to do this until I figure out a better way, a lot of sort of one-on-one conversations with counties, either stakeholders driving the conversation in the county, or quite frankly, county planners who I'm having conversations with, sharing what's happening in other counties and what might be a good model for them. So come find me later.
Right. Is there any other questions? Okay, well then we will move on. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you all.
Okay, before we move into the last panel of the day, I have a couple of things to say. First of all, I see a lot of similarities to some of her examples in what we're doing here in Lake County. Did Apple Hill's celebration look a little bit like the Pear Festival that we see here every September, which was sort of exciting? And then I made some connections between what we're doing with the Big Valley Small Farms Initiative and the Sierra Valley work. So it's sort of exciting to see that we're on the right path, and I'm looking forward to connecting with Rachel about what we can do to make policy to make those strategies around diversification and succession planning even easier for our small farmers. Before we move into the next panel, I want to talk a little bit about the transitions that are going to happen following the panel. So we've got some dignitaries here from the city of Lakeport to talk about their downtown revitalization. After that, they're going to be hosting a walking tour from here. we're going to ask you to split into 3 groups for the walking tour so that everybody can be touring at the same time. Ron, you want to raise your hand, Ron? He is going to be leading one group, focusing, they're all going to cover the same information, but these people have particular expertise in the following areas. So Ron is going to be working or talking with a slight focus on infrastructure. Kevin Ingram is going to be focused a little bit more on the money, how you get the money. And then Wilda, with the red coat over here, is going to be leading with the focus of community building. And she's got a special treat for her group as well. So think about the type of tour that you're wanting to take while you're listening to the panel so that you have a good idea of who you want to join. If you're going to choose not to do the walking tour, we do have another option for you. Across Highway 29, if you're going to that ranch for the farm to table dinner, across Highway 29 there is a great wine tasting location called the Mercantile. And I bring this up particularly because in the Kennewick project there was a topic about the waste coming off of the wine grape processing. And they have used that grape waste into making a worm farm that is used to supplement your vegetable gardens. So ask about their worm farm if you go for wine tasting, if you choose not to do the walking tour. What else am I going to say? Dinner is at that ranch, Highway 29. If you need instructions, we have Google Maps. It works in most places here. And doors will open at 5:30. Dinner is at 6. It is sold out, so if you do not have a ticket, we do have a limited number of tickets that I know of people who are not attending. So check in with Susan or I, but otherwise we're at capacity for dinner. With that, I am going to turn the microphone over to Stacy Mattina, a council member for what's going on to be her 14th year here in the city of Lakeport.
Thank you, Nicole. We'll let our panel come take a seat.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, always.
When you leave for the walking tour or for Mercantile or whatever, please take your things with you. We are not convening back here. So at the end here, we're leaving for the day, and then we'll convene back at your location of choice.
All right. All right, welcome everyone, and welcome to Lakeport. I'm Stacy Mattina, City Council member for the City of Lakeport, and I will be your moderator today, and I promise this isn't going to take forever. We really want to get you out there to have a good look around. Today we're going to discuss Lakeport, connected, resilient, and walkable downtown. Lakeport is a small but active lakeside city that believes that rural communities can lead with innovation, creativity, and partnerships. And over the last several years, we've aligned state and federal programs, including Prop 68, ARPA, CDBG, FHWA, ER, PLHA, ATP, and others to increase walkability, improve safety, support our local businesses, and activate our waterfront. We're excited to share our journey, and then we will take you out to see firsthand results. So first I'd like to introduce our panel. We have Kevin Ingram, our city manager, Laurel Samuel from Clear Lake Environmental Research, Chief Dale Stovey, I skipped, Ron Ladd, Public Works Director, and our Chief of Police, Dale Stobie. So Lakeport, let's see. Lakeport has delivered more visible public improvements in a short time than many much larger cities. How do we create a shared vision and keep it consistent over multiple projects?
Thank you, Stacy.
Go ahead, Kevin.
You know, I heard this theme. It's you know, no secret. I mean, we've heard it a couple times today. I heard Amber there with Kennewick talk about it. It really does start with having a plan. You have to have you know, that starting point, and then also keying in on a couple things that we've heard throughout the day. I've heard, you know, a lot of folks talk, you know, entrepreneurship and relating it to raising children and stuff. Anybody that's raised children know you can have any plan you want, but you better have some backup plans on it to go about. Much like I think it was Nick Lammy's had twins. I've got twins as well, and you go in with that plan. But if you think for a moment that you're going to enact that plan just straightforward all the way through, you're kidding yourself. And that's the same here. We started in 2015 with what we call our Lakeport Lakefront Revitalization Plan. Was a planning grant through CDBG. It was very heavily focused on lots and lots of public input, and I would say that's kind of the second key component. Don't be afraid of having those messy conversations. You have to have those kind of hard, you know, true conversations about what you really want, you know, in your town. I've always it's easy if you work for a dictator, right? You only got one person you gotta you know, please. But when you're in a small town or anything like that, you know, you're going to meet these people in the grocery store. You're going to meet them other places. So you want to have those conversations and really work towards that connected vision. And what happens is you start to, as you have those stories and you put them together, you start to get some other pieces that come together. And for us, it really was, the starting point was that Lakefront Revitalization Plan. And it set out a number of different projects and priorities. But, you know, I think altogether that plan probably was about $150 million in total, and we probably had about, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 to put towards it at the time. So then the next big step is kind of linking it with those opportunities. So you have those priorities, and, you know, if funding comes available, even though you may have, you know, project A that's number one that you want to do, if the funding comes available for X, Y, and Z, that's where you end up going. And for us, you know, our big kind of breakthrough with that plan was for Hobotton Park when Prop 68 came available. It was actually Councilmember Matina was at a Cal Cities conference and met a partnership group that was kind of taking the lead on getting Prop 68 passed. She adequately got them to come out and visit Lakeport, and they agreed to assist us in putting that grant together, and that was a huge step forward for us. But, you know, it really is that kind of, you got to make your own luck, right? The luck is, you know, your outcome of, you know, preparation meeting opportunity. And so that was a key piece in getting that all together.
Absolutely. And you do have to put up with the people that say you're putting together another plan to sit on the shelf and just collect dust. But you know in your heart that you're going to get there and you'll find a way. Anyone else have comments on that? Anything you want to add? Okay, we can keep moving forward. Let's talk about leveraging grants and funding strategy. People often ask how Lakeport accomplishes so much with a small staff, and the answer is strategy and being ready when funding becomes available. We don't chase the grants, we plan first, and then we build the partnerships and match the projects to the funding. So questioned Ron Ladd, how do we sequence projects with utilities, ADA upgrades, sidewalks, parks, waterfront trails, so we build momentum without overwhelming the community?
Well, I wish we could say that, you know, we planned all of these well in advance, but really some of the larger things that we accomplished were the victim of circumstance. Some, you know, major disasters being a big piece with the seawall and the promenade upgrades in Library Park. We worked for a long time with FEMA to get them to approve a cost-effective mitigation, to upgrade the lakefront in Library Park. And it had been the vision of some of the other plans to continue that promenade all the way down to where Habotten Park is now. And we saw the great opportunity to get the building block for that right off the bat. And some of the stuff in the downtown area, I mean, we are always pursuing funding, and it becomes available when it becomes available. And certainly we didn't want to do a bunch of road improvements and improvements to the infrastructure without addressing what's underground. We had an $8 million water and sewer upgrade project, what really set the table for us for a lot of the surface improvements that went along in the downtown area.
I'd quickly add there too. I mean, it's maybe just out of necessity with a small city, but I think this is, true in almost any of these circumstances, is as you're going through any project, you got to have all the players at the table. I mean, you need to have your public works staff, your utilities folks on board at the design phase. I mean, I think we ran into, when we were redoing our downtown area, putting in new sidewalks, street trees, and lighting and such. There's a lot of weird stuff under there. And you can have some great design plans, but if the sewer line jags this way or a utility box goes that way, you might not be doing that piece right there that you want to do. In that same vein, I would highly recommend that you have your finance people there at the table with you every step of the way. Beyond just looking at the money, but making sure that they're aligned with the vision and understanding the outcomes you want to go, you want to actually get. Because, like I said, your initial vision may be something, but as the funding comes at you, you might have to adjust that, and you want to make sure that you've got all those pieces firing together.
Any other? All right, let's move forward. Let's talk about community engagement and partnerships. The community voice guides our work. Residents asked for a walkable waterfront, family-friendly spaces, and more arts and cultural activity. We listened and we built partnerships to make it happen, including nonprofits, county agencies, schools, and tribal partners. Question to Laura: how did the community input shape Clerk's approach to the Carnegie Building and the environmental education program?
So, by the way, I'm Laura. I'm the operations director at the Clear Lake Environmental Research Center. Our executive director couldn't be here today. And I will say that we are building our vision of what we hope will be on the second floor of the Carnegie Library, the Clerk Discovery Center. And we are building that vision based on input that the city of Lakeport received in its 2014 feasibility study for that site, where the community told the city that they wanted a public use. They wanted to be able to go inside that beautiful old building and be able to experience it. I will say that we have also at Clerk convened what we call our Carnegie Library Steering Committee, where we involved members, representatives from the Lake County Office of Education, the Lake County Museums, different groups, different interested community members, scientists. We really were looking to create some sort of environmental education center, something for visitors, something for residents, something for school children, that people can come and learn about the beauty of one of the most remarkable assets that Lake County has, which is that big, beautiful, ancient lake out there. And we want to have curriculum surrounding that. We have this vision. What is to come, what the steering committee did do at this point, and what I hope that you'll get to see when you come to the Carnegie Library tonight, is that we worked with a consultant to create sort of a concept renderings of what we hope someday the Discovery Center will be. We still need to gather funding. We still need more community input, more community support. And so that's what you'll see today. One other thing I will say is that when a small nonprofit partners with a government agency like the City of Lakeport, when Ron talks about his infrastructure, there is no way that clerk could have even conceived of the idea of having anything at the Carnegie Library until it was ADA accessible, until we had the plumbing and the roof was fixed and the lighting, and now we have beautiful HVAC. The city did an amazing job renovating that beautiful old historic building, making it the perfect jumping off place for what we hope will be the Discovery Center. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. A lot of patience in there, huh?
Exactly.
Kevin, did you want to add to some of the other partnerships?
Yeah, yes, no, I mean, the clerk example is a fantastic one, and I don't know what kind of gift Wilda's got set up for her groups, but every group will be able to go to the Carnegie Library today and take a look at that education center, what they have in store for it. But I mean, our general fund is very limited in regards to what it can accomplish, and you put that against the price tags of any other capital improvement project, and it becomes very clear right at the gate that grants and other things. But where we have found probably the most value in getting a lot of our items done for maximizing our waterfront and our downtown has been through community partnerships. Clark being a big one. You're sitting in another one. The Soper East Theater sits here as an anchor to our historic downtown here at the southern end. If you just walk outside, you can see some of the great things that they're doing to try and get this beautiful space in order. We were gifted an old Bank of America building several years ago. Same, it had a lot of deferred maintenance issues that we're still trying to work our way through. But being a small town, we don't have staff that can actually get that out and finish our mission of getting that open to the community. And we've found several partners, and the biggest being the Lake County Arts Council has stepped forward, and we're working with them. They're looking at utilizing that front space, and in turn, they're looking at staffing, handling the rentals and the pieces, and we're very hopeful that here, beginning next year, that we can get that building open for use on the weekends and in the evenings, something that we are not able to do as a city on our own with our smaller staff. But another stop along the way is going to be at Museum Square, which sits right in our downtown area. That's actually operated. It's the old courthouse, I don't know. We're gonna have to come up with a new name, Bruno. I guess the old courthouse once the new one opens up. But it now serves as our museum. It's operated by the County of Lake, and we're in constant contact with them. And they rent out that space and work us together in making sure that our whole vision cannot happen just as the city. It is very dependent upon our community partners.
Excellent. And it's been very exciting to see all these spaces come to life. All right, let's talk about public safety and community wellness. Our public spaces only thrive when people feel safe. Lakeport's policing philosophy centers on visibility, relationships, and proactive support, including mental health response and crisis outreach. Chief Stovey, how has your community-based policing model built trust downtown?
Well, first I have to say that I think that even though, Kevin, you tried to do justice to the partnerships, I don't think that you really have done enough to really kind of explain that it's the environment, right? I mean, it's the environment of the creativity that we're allowed to develop those partnerships and really look at things from the perspective of from a law enforcement perspective. It's not really just about law enforcement, it's about public safety and the importance of having a thriving commercial area and having neighborhoods that are safe and public spaces that people feel free to utilize and move around in, and recognizing that we have to be creative, all of us, and taking on roles of that and playing a part in it. And in that same kind of vein, looking outside of the box and developing relationships with, we developed a relationship with a non-governmental nonprofit organization that provides family resources, and kind of leveraged that into the ability to address homelessness rather effectively, in the provision of services originally, but that really kind of grew into providing some crisis intervention from not just a law enforcement perspective, but from an advocacy perspective, and recognizing some successes there in effectively providing services, continually addressing the problem areas and needs, especially the downtown area, and really kind of grew into having a downtown officer and being able to, just as much as any law enforcement agency, not just in the state but in the nation, is experiencing low staffing levels, still being creative enough to find space for that, to create those kind of safer spaces and provide and continue to address and provide services to homelessness and people in crises. We eventually were able to grow that into a partnership with Lake County Behavioral Health, where we have a field clinician that works out of our office 40 hours a week in responding to calls for service with law enforcement and addressing those together, and have seen a lot of success that has come from that in the reduction of use of force, the reduction of force being used against us, a significant reduction in time consumption that is spent with homelessness and people that are repetitively in crisis, so that's some of the work that we have done and given that creative space to do.
I'd further that too. I mean, one of the things I said earlier was you can't be afraid of having those messy conversations with your community and really getting to it. And it was actually in this building, at the time, Supervisor Rasmussen was a police chief, that him and Dale led a very hard conversation. We packed this building up between community members and business owners who were frustrated with some of the homeless activities in the downtown spaces, lots of pieces in that. And we had a large discussion with the community. We already had some things in place to try and get a downtown officer there, but it really shaped how we approached it. And I think that wouldn't have been possible without actually having that conversation. So you have to have those in order to be able to get really to where you want to be, and that the downtown community officer has been a very well received one in walking, kind of foot patrol oriented, walking through our downtown and waterfront spaces, and more importantly, establishing relationships with our business owners, and and really cementing our commitment to community policing to begin with.
And Chief, with being more proactive than reactive with the behavioral health calls, what are you seeing that make a difference?
Oh, yeah. As I stated, we have about a 25% reduction in use of force. We have about a 60% reduction in time consumption. About a 50% reduction in the calls for service, and that's over a 5-year period, and that's just with our group of homeless and people in repetitive crisis. So yeah, it's having definitely a positive effect. We've had not just the numbers, which the numbers are meaningful, but the specific cases, the people that we can point to, and like J.K. would walk around town. We'd find him with one sock on, and it was a lot of contact and communication and building rapport and building information. But now his mental issues are being taken care of. There's unfortunately probably only 2 or 3 handfuls of those cases, but their success. These aren't events; these are processes that take time. They take work, and they take a lot of patience and knowledge, and common sense as well, and the ability to be creative.
Great work, Chief. All right, let's talk about walkability, parks, and our waterfront activation. Our waterfront is our front porch, connecting the pathways, improving ADA access, and adding recreation spaces has brought people back to our Main Street and the lake. Question for Ron, what were the key steps in transforming fragmented lakeshore access into a continuous public lakefront trail system?
Well, first I want to say I interviewed with the city first in the Parks Department about 11 years ago, and Supervisor Rasmussen was on that interview panel, and one of the questions that they asked me is if I could change anything in the park or do any project in the park, what would I like to do? And I think you've reminded me of this. You remember I had said I would love to see the city acquire the natural high site and make a continuous parkland through the parking lot and the boat ramps there, and just improve the continuity between downtown and the lakefront and the parks. And I thought I had really come up with something unique, and after I subsequently was offered the position and realized that there had been a lot of people that had talked about that. And a lot of this format here seemed to want to address the challenges that face small rural communities. And what I've seen in attempting to address the fragmented lakefront is there's a lot of benefits of working in a small community as well. And I mean, the community partnerships have gone on, but all of those are key in addressing, what we kind of had as a disjointed lakefront that's beginning to take shape now in a big way. The people that live here really care, and as anyone knows that's chased funding, meaningful community input is key to being successful in being awarded the funding. And so when we looked at it as a whole, long before you had made the relationships at Cal Cities with public health advocates that helped us put some of that together, before any of that was on the table, when I looked at the entire area, it was overwhelming to where yes, this needs to be addressed, but where do we start? We can't tackle this all at once. So what is cohesive manner that we can start to chip away at this? And fortunately or unfortunately, we did have a couple of floods that contributed greatly to the funding that was available to us to address some of that lakefront area. And really, when we did begin the application process and public outreach for the Prop 68 funding, wow, I was just so shocked at the enthusiasm and input from the community. And I really thought I had the best idea on how to go about that and what the best amenities would be. And I was swayed over and over again by the passion of the people that they spent a lot of their own time, and it's because they care about the community. And I think without the whole community input and participation, we would not be nearly as far along as we are on addressing the cohesiveness of the lakefront and the connectivity to downtown.
Kevin, did you want to add to that?
You sticking with the children theme, I know you're not supposed to pick your favorite children, but the walking path promenade along the waterfront is by far my favorite child, my favorite project of our key piece. And that's no discredit to the beautiful park that we've got, but you can now walk a third of a mile straight on that lakefront, which was disjointed and broken, as Ron had mentioned before. But I guess my question to Ron is, going back to that interview question, if you would have known that you would have been stuck working on that $5.8 million grant to actually turn Natural High into Hobotton Park, would you have changed your mind?
You know what? Now that it's over, looking back, I'm happy that we went through the process, because I lived in the community before I worked for the city, and I had talked about that undeveloped lot there that was natural high with my friends that didn't work for this. It was already a topic of the community, and you know, it's something that everyone in Lakeport and everyone that participated in that should be proud of, that was accomplished.
The thing with the new promenade is that you don't only see people down there enjoying it, but it really has an effect on the entire city. Going through town, you see kids walking or skateboarding, heading down to the park. You see far more people out on, you know, walking through town, heading down to the park to walk around it. So it really brings out the community and brought everyone together. And some of those kids had tears in their eyes when they saw that basketball court. So, remaining challenges and next steps. So we're obviously very proud of our momentum, but we are not done. We're working closely with our county economic development partners to expand broadband and utility infrastructure. We still face downtown commercial vacancy challenges, and we're actively recruiting businesses while supporting our existing ones. Our next major project is coordinated wayfinding and waterfront storytelling, guiding our visitors, celebrating history, and connecting businesses and the parks. So a couple last questions. Kevin, what strategies will help reduce downtown vacancies and support our local entrepreneurs?
And this is definitely, you know, anybody that's going to go out on that walking tour, you'll see that we do struggle, you know, with vacancies. We've partnered with a consulting firm, you know, to kind of help us, you know, try and attract additional retail in there. But we've tried to take that approach where it's not just some firm that's going to be attracting big box stores to the area that's going to further put an extra restraint on our small businesses. We picked a firm that has as part of their tenet that kind of establishing connections with those existing businesses, helping them understand the market research, helping them identify where there are gaps and opportunities in the existing economic framework that they potentially can fill. They provide us on a regular basis information on the number of people that are coming downtown, when they're coming downtown, how can we kind of orient that to maybe reestablishing when businesses are open and those pieces. So it's a challenge, and the current economic conditions certainly add to that. We've been very blessed to have a number of new business, particularly restaurants, open up in our downtown space, and that's been fantastic. But at the same time, we've seen a really hard strain over the past couple years on some of our smaller shops and pieces. So it's a constant one, but I think I would state the most important is know your data, and constantly, and don't be afraid of trying things and then and pivoting to different things if that's not working.
And Ron, what will the unified wayfinding mean for the waterfront experience?
Well, I think that's definitely a project that would be worthwhile for the downtown area. We work at the park and we work outside, and I'm approached by community members, and one of the suggestions that we often get is when visitors come in, they're not sure which way to go. I mean, they need wayfinding signage. I like what Clear Lake has done recently with their wayfinding signage, and I really think it helps pull the whole design together and improves the connectivity.
Wonderful. Well, it's about time to wrap up. Is there anything that you guys want to say that you feel like we missed?
No, please join us on this walking tour. We have a lot of things we'd love to highlight. We'll be very respectful of your time. We know you want to get over there to dinner at that ranch and potentially the Mercantile as well, so we won't hold you up. But yeah, please come out and take a look. We're happy to share our story.
Well, thank you to the panel. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's pick your tour guide and hit the streets. Thanks, everyone.
You know, one of the big complaints, anybody who's gone to any of those other economic development summits, you hear about some of the challenges in integrating ADA requirements and other pieces into your old historic downtown areas. We were able to do that. And big credit goes to our city engineer who identified it, you know, pretty early on in the process. So, hey, we need to make sure that all of our historic downtown area has ADA access to all the building entrances. That's a big piece. I mean, you're probably talking, you know, 30K, you know, upwards of 50K for some of these businesses if they were to do it on their own to try and get those things. So you can kind of see the sidewalk kind of undulates up and down a little bit. That is on purpose to kind of make sure that all those access points. We're going to pass a couple where we had to add some ramps in there to make sure that we had the access pieces. But I always highlight that one as kind of one of the unsung ones that even the businesses don't quite, you know, always remember. So this obviously is, you know, one of the many wonderful Carnegie libraries that we have in our countries. And this one was built in 1918. The shoreline was actually that way a little bit. This is actually all fill that came on. There was supposed to be a railroad depot going in next door. And just a fun little fact that you can take home with you. Lake County is the only county in the state of California without a single bit of railroad track in it whatsoever. So the boom busted and we were left behind, but we did get the beautiful library in here, and it became, it kind of set the stage too for Library Park back here, which is by far you know, kind of a staple of our community. Summer concert series uses the gazebo. You know, even just recently, you know, it was, you know, any kind of larger community event, kind of there, you know, the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, there was a candlelight visual down here. This is kind of the heart and hub of the community area, kind of connecting a big connector piece. We mentioned it a little bit in the panel. The library it was used continually from 1918 till about the mid 80s, 1985, and then the library did move up over to 14th Street. The city had the building. We had a partnership for a very short time with the UC system. They were using it for some lake sort of research, but it really kind of fell into some disrepair. And the main issue was, without an elevator and a lift in it, the second story was no longer accessible and usable for the public. So that really became our central focus. In 2014, we were able to get some CDBG money to kind of look at some reuse and feasibility studies on it. And that helped us come up with the design plans, and we were able to tap into CDBG monies again and constructed a lift through there. It's not technically an elevator, but for all intents and purposes, it's an elevator. And that kind of serendipitously kind of worked well with the rise of the Clear Lake Environmental Resource Center. They were formed in 2014, right around the same time, and as they grew and were hiring more and more staff, the city formed an early partnership where they used the bottom floor, and they still do use the bottom floor for a water and wastewater testing lab. Prior to their existence, all of our many water systems, sewer systems and stuff had to send their samples and stuff out over to Ukiah was the closest, or a lot of them going down to Santa Rosa, and now they have that in there as well. They have brought in a ton of grant money in regards to fire science portion. They're doing a lot of projects in rehabbing some of our burnt areas and making sure that we maintain some good buffers and pieces. And they're looking at doing, taking the second floor, which we'll go up to here in just a second, and making this an educational resource center for folks to learn about the lake. So let's hop in there. It's a little tight in there. If folks want to come out here and kind of take a look at the lake and some other stuff, I'll probably stay out here and can answer any individual questions. But if some of the group wants to go in there and take a look, I think that
We've got, I think, another 40,000 seedlings on order that are currently being grown as we speak. So we'll do another planting in the spring. But this is just an idea of some of the preparations that we had to do, masticating, preparing the ground to be planted, and then actually planting them. Little tiny plugs.
We talked a little bit in there in regards to, kind of don't let a good disaster go by when you're trying to get things done, right? So, Clear Lake when Clear Lake floods, it's kind of a different animal than what you would see in, your normal kind of storm-based flooding and stuff. The lake has a very narrow opening out on the other side. And so as it gains and gains, it slowly comes up. And so, you don't have to really run from it because it comes up so slow. But once it's here, it sits a really long time. So in 2017 and 2019, that was our most recent kind of flooding piece. We had water out kind of into the middle of Park Street, right over here. And, and this here was, we called it the duck pond, right? I mean, it was covered in water. But what really gave us the biggest trouble was before it actually flooded, we had a couple of really intense wind events. Normally the wind's blowing out of the west or the south. It turned on us and we got a lot of wave action that really, it literally just kind of peeled up the park with it. Our old wall there had a lot of voids and it was failing. And when you are working with FEMA, you have to have a ton of patience. And so, I credit our public works staff, Ron Latter, previous public works director, Doug Grider, really worked on FEMA quite a bit in regards to, hey, we can make the small repairs, but this is just going to happen again. And so really our new seawall became kind of more of a hazard mitigation piece where they punched these down deep into it. But for our purposes too, we were looking at what we really want to redo and get better access along the lake. And as we walk down here, you'll see this becomes the backbone to, as I told you, my favorite project is our waterfront promenade, which starts here in Library Park at our First Street ramp, and we will walk it down to the new park. So, any general questions before we walk down to the lake? Did I miss anything you wanted to add in there, Ron?
If you want to geek out about the changes we made here, which I like to do, from where we're standing to the seawall, there used to be a grade change of over a foot between here and there. The old seawall was a cinder block, really old concrete wall that kind of the top of it was a foot lower than where the sidewalk is now. So we raised up the sidewalk a foot and then put an additional 3-foot concrete wall there. The main pier that you went out, you used to walk uphill to go up to where the main pier. We cut out a segment of the main pier, leveled everything off, flattened it all out, and increased our wave protection by about 4 feet.
So is it just filled from rainwater, or is there water flowing into it somewhere?
No water flows out into Cache Creek and down to the Sacramento River. When we are above zero Rumsey, that's when water is flowing out there. We kind of hit flood stage and different stuff in the 8.5, 9 region, and we really start having problems around 11 and 12. But it just the Rumsey scale is something that's very unique to us. I think its actual elevation full lake is 7.79 Rumsey, which translates to what, 13 what's the elevation? 1330 something. 1338 or something like that. So
how long?
Number and they're only scale from sea level or from the bottom of the lake?
Yes, it's probably only about 30 feet. So when it drops below, you know, when
significant.
-1, -2 Rumsey, it'll go out about 30 feet just straight out.
And how long were you below zero during that time?
3 or 4 months we were at zero, but that was kind of 2-year cycles where it was hitting below zero.
Repeatedly. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's go on up to and we'll walk the water. Park really is the heart of our downtown area, has been for quite some time. But the addition that we really added in when we put in the seawall was this waterfront, promenade here. And we carried this whole stamping piece all the way down to the new park, for about 1/3 of a mile. And when we get down here, we'll talk about the boat ramps in the access area. How when we rehabbed that area, we added some more of the promenade there, anticipating that we wanted to connect those two spaces. The next step in that process, so we've essentially added the promenade along all the publicly owned lands that we have along the waterfront, and we're working closely with the Willow Point Resort and some of the other hotels up there. The dream is to continue that waterfront along those private property areas there as well, and for kind of the 1/2 mile to 3/4 of a mile of our main waterfront area.
What's the current lane?
It's about 1/3.
And so you want to go up to about 3/4?
We can get through this property right here with Willow Point. We can connect up with the Esplanade neighborhood where it's not as wide, but they have gorgeous sidewalk piece that continues almost another 1/2 mile up. Okay. It's always one little piece, right?
You need Luca Brasi.
One of the other big challenges that we've had that got identified really early on when we were doing that lakefront revitalization plan, kind of envisioning all this space out, was we have one block up here, our beautiful Main Street, and it's 1 block away from the lake. But and this is still a challenge. They operate almost independently without cohesiveness. We get complaints from the businesses when we do events down here in Library Park that then nobody comes up to the businesses. When we close down Main Street for parades and other street fairs and things like that, we hear complaints from the businesses down here that nobody comes down to these pieces. So one of the big nuts that we're always still trying to crack is they're only 1 block apart. How do we get them to come together as a more usable space? And we've tried, you can see we have a whole series of murals and stuff that we're trying to put together. We talked about wanting to improve our wayfinding signage, but one of our big success stories, I'd say, is right here on this. This is Park Place Restaurant, which is a fantastic fixture of Lakeport. Been in business for over 40 years. Great restaurant to go to. But right next door to that, where you see the lights on the little parklet piece on the outside, is on the waterfront. Until 2 years ago, that building had been vacant for almost 15 years. It was originally still called On the Waterfront, but it was a boat rental and kind of supply, water sports sort of supply sort of pieces. I've been told that they used to store all their boats in the parking lot that's now attached to City Hall. But we were very grateful for On the Waterfront, a partnership with Soul Rouge Winery. Their wine is right. You can kind of see if it was a little lighter, you could see their vineyards at the bottom of Canocti over there. But they really came through, revamped that space, and I have noticed it, from just looking out my window at City Hall, that just there being open together with Park Place and some of the other things, we see more people in the downtown area, walking before dinner, and I think that really we need more of those things to happen to really unite those spaces together. I like to highlight this area here. So we're kind of standing between 2 of our main access points to the lake, the 3rd Street boat ramp, and then we'll pass right by the 5th Street boat ramp. And for a long time, it just was, like you said, a landlocked parking lot area that was kind of not really cohesive to the vision and piece, but yet fills a very important aspect. This this will fill up. When there's bass tournaments and other pieces going on, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're lucky if you can get into here. So I mean, these are all, this gets in, and they get here way earlier than you do, by the way. They'll be out here at like 2 or 3 a.m. So good luck getting a parking spot when you try and get to work at 8. But when we were rehabbing this area, putting down, it could have easily just been slapping some new asphalt down. But we really, at that time, we were just starting to make headway on getting the new park put together. And we're like, wait a second, we've had so much success over here with the promenade. We need to make sure, at that point it was sort of just segmented small pieces of sidewalk. We pulled the promenade when we did that here. We did our stamped asphalt and stuff here to try and make it a little bit more cohesive to get those connection points to downtown. So we took advantage of what was a very small project and trying to keep that foresight into what was coming, which will go there. And we got to move because Wildersburg's coming.
Right on our trail.
Right on our trail. Is the gem of our community. This used to be, like Ron was talking about, this was the school's property for quite some time. Natural High was here until we demolished it over there and got $5.8 million of Prop 68 money. Entirely because of being able to get the community involved in it. The community came out in huge force when we first started doing, most of the time you have to fight to get people into public meetings, fill out those surveys and stuff. We did not in this case. People came out in the traditional meetings. We had huge meetings up at the school when we were doing some surveys and different pieces at, like our concerts in the park. Well, the community really came out in force, and by far that was why we ended up with that grant, with the community input in there. Did a lot of design in regards to the amenities that got put in here. These were all community chosen. I think one of the kind of neat things is if you go to a lot of communities, a lot of times the skate park kind of gets stashed, somewhere in a corner off to the side, and that's where you get a lot of graffiti and some other pieces. We put it front and center, so that they're not kind of off to the side. They don't feel like they're isolated. They are absolutely a part of the park, and we really haven't had too many issues with it. A big piece that I want to take is all the alignment of this park, this central path that goes along to it, is all oriented towards that view of Canocti and the lake. And when we were going through that lakefront revitalization plan, this was identified as a needed area for a park. This is the only area in town where you can see the lake directly from Main Street. And so that was a key component during the design phase as well, was we wanted a lot of uses, we wanted a lot of different amenities that everybody can kind of use the park, but we want to maintain that visual corridor to the lake, which is important to our character and our piece. So splash pad kind of over in this area is a huge feature and a hit in the summer. We'll walk up, I know we're running out of time, we'll cross back over to the community center, which ties in. But if you look, the print down on the splash pad is the outline of Clear Lake. I'd like to say that was my idea, but it wasn't. But it's been a real big hit on it. But all the amenities that came in here were community chosen, and this was a big success. And I think it's already been mentioned. This park is never empty. I don't care what time it is, what the weather is. The community is always out here and using it. Right, Chief?
Except between the hours of 12 and 6.
When they close it,
you.